The ranch and last thing, ultimate type.
Oh, yeah. Can't see the healing
Has
thing.
moved with way years. No, I was in the river.
Did you say Georgia?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll call this meeting to order. This is a regular meeting of the Board of Directors of the Bolinas Community Public Utility District. All directors are present. Today is May 20th, 2026. On to item 3 under opening, which is community expression, opportunity for members of the audience to address the board on matters which are not on the agenda and for which we can take no action. What would entertain a brief discussion, and given the length of our agenda tonight, I would ask that it be a really brief discussion. But if anybody has a community expression item, now's the time. None appearing, we can move right on. Lastly, consider amending order of items in the agenda. Georgia, is there anything you'd like to move around?
Yeah, can we move 2 items up that are on the official reports or updates, no action requested, number 20. Update on resource recovery project, and number 21, discussion of public agency coordination on bond measure, trustee Ariane Dart of the Stinson School.
Do you want to take items 20 and 21 and move them up?
Yeah, could you move them just after 6?
Okay, can do.
How about moving up 9? I don't know.
Well, we'll get everything else is basically public. I mean, we could 9. Sorry.
I would like to motion to move 10 up.
You're 9 actually.
I'm 9 now? Okay.
Yeah. I figured that was you.
Well, those are all kind of.
Because the thing is, like, Simon's here for his item, all of those, I'd rather just go.
Simon is
Yeah.
number 2. Okay.
Okay.
He's already up.
Okay, yeah. All right, here we go.
I mean, we could, sorry, move those 2 of those items between 11 and 12. So that
Which 2 items between 11 and 12?
20 and 21.
20 and 21.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because then we're just basically, yeah, everybody from the public is this first part.
You've got
Which
it.
is the update on resource recovery project, right? This
Yeah.
is your from the
That is
agenda?
basically, Bella's here, it's her anniversary, and I would like to get her out of here.
Happy anniversary.
Wow.
It's my anniversary too.
Oh, wow,
anniversary. Yeah. Well,
All right, well, we're gonna then get going on the agenda. Public hearings, receipts, and notices are on number 2. Consideration of supportive measures to allocate water toward potential pool at Mesa Park. Simon Dunn. Take it away, Simon.
I think I'm booting to Georgia, right?
Okay,
All right.
That's fine.
Georgia, that's fine.
yeah, so, I don't actually remember when that was, March or something, that, Simon came here and we discussed all of this in theory, and, essentially I said I would bring this back with, effectively, specific, measures that you guys could vote on. And that's effectively what's brought forward now. So if you guys, I mean, there's background here for members of the public that want to read the memo, but essentially what this was is they do not have Mesa Park, based on their limited water use permit at Mesa Park, does not have enough water to support a pool. So these were essentially different approaches to increasing their limited water use permit at Mesa Park to enable that without impacting overall water usage in the district. So I think what I would suggest is, if you go forward, what I tried to do, especially since there's so much on this meeting, I basically crafted language.
Yeah.
So each is an individual vote, and I think we should just go each one vote at a time, where you guys, one of you would bring, forward something, somebody else could second it. And then you would, I mean, obviously amend the language if you want to amend the language before you bring the individual item forward, or the, voting language forward. And then we can take one vote at a time. that makes sense.
Yes.
So
I do have a
maybe,
question.
yeah, what's that? And we could obviously have discussions first before we do that, but that's ultimately the goal is we're getting to these 4 votes.
And may I add just that there is no pool currently, as you know, so this is all still theoretical. Maybe this is obvious, but this is just like that you would entertain these strategies as we move towards the construction of a pool. So I don't think there's any sense that we're like
No, and
defining
even
exactly what we're doing.
yeah, exactly. This is just essentially to give the public and effectively the pool, the people, especially members of the public that are interested in pursuing a pool, some assurance as to whether, you know, it's worth pursuing this in terms of, you know, would there be enough water allocated for the project? So again, it's not, none of the votes that you're taking here are gonna lead directly to action in terms of, you know, like, okay, modifying a limit or anything. But what they do lead to is essentially you're taking this vote. It's not just like, hey, yeah, maybe we'd be willing to do that. It's like you're willing to do that. And the details of it will come later. But yeah. And so the exact numbers and all of that are not set in stone, but yeah, and I think it will make more sense when we get into the actual vote because it's more concrete, obviously, when you're talking about a specific request and whether you guys would be willing to entertain.
All right, so what is your proposed approach to dealing with the 4 separate items?
I would say take them separately because you could vote for one and not the other. So if you want, I can read the language as stated here in each item. Or you guys can you know, just read the very beginning of the language and see if somebody's willing to second. And then take a vote. I think in terms of the members of the public, it's probably helpful for them to hear, you know, the language that you guys are voting on.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, well, I guess you just start with number 1.
Okay. Proposed action, motion that the board establish a water use limit for Mesa Park's downtown meter based on documented historical usage. And authorize a water use reallocation swap stack between the downtown meter and the Mesa Park LWUP meter. Enabling transfer of water use limits from the downtown meter to the Mesa Park meter. With newly established limits to be enforced in accordance with the district's LWUP resolution. And direct staff to review the existing LWUP resolution and return with any recommended amendments necessary to authorize swap stack for public benefit purposes beyond affordable housing.
So this is a unlimited water use,
No.
It is currently unlimited downtown.
right? That's going to be relocated to
No, that-
join with a limited water use.
Yeah, the idea is that you guys would impose a limit downtown. Once that limit is set based on historical usage down there or whatever measures you guys decide to impose that limit. Then that now gives you a set limit there, and now you could employ effectively the swap and stack that we'll see later on in the context of affordable housing, right? Where you could move a set amount from downtown up to the Mesa. So essentially their water usage would be the same, they would just be reallocating water up to the Mesa and presumably the pool. Of course, the implication there is that they would have to decrease their water use downtown.
So the total amount of water from both meters
Mhm.
is going to be limited, but it'll be allocated differently from the downtown parking.
Mhm.
Okay.
And so when you uncouple it, then what is it will be a limited water use?
Well, I think the order of operations, at least for, if you're gonna sort of mimic what you've done with affordable housing, is that you would impose the limit downtown based on some criteria, right? You need to establish that limit to know, okay, what is the total use, like total amount that we're even dealing with here? And then you would, you know, upon their request, you would have to then, that's what the motion is saying is then I think it would make sense to go back to the resolution, the limited water use resolution. And amend that so that you can essentially piggyback on that, allowing swap and stacks in the context of, you know, parks or whatever public benefits usage you guys want to identify. And then, and so then ultimately, then once all of that is established, then you can effectively implement the swap and stack so that you would enable them to actually, modify the limits.
All right, so I think what I'll do is just go around the table first and ask some.
Grace has a question.
Sure, I can start with Grace and then we can ask the audience and then we can take a vote.
Yeah, looking at number 1, it says authorize. There's nothing in here about the pool specifically. There's public benefit in general, which Mesa Park certainly falls under that criteria, right? So under this, we are saying that even if the pool never happens, Mesa Park could use that water if they chose to. I just want to have clarity around that, but this doesn't really, this has nothing to do with the pool specifically. This first one, it establishes an LWAP on a meter that's previously unregulated, which seems like a good idea to me. And it's setting the stage for a swap and stack if that is something that Mesa Park chooses to request at a future time. Is that accurate?
Yeah.
Okay, wanted to make sure I had clarity about that.
Okay, is there anything else you'd like to say about this proposal before I move on?
No.
Okay. Is it Kristen, what your thoughts on this?
I mean, I don't have anything other than what I already asked.
Okay, all right. Andrew, what do you think?
My question is similar to what Grace was saying, that there's like the last sentence, it says public benefit purposes. I'm wondering if that is like a definition that we have in our.
No, and I think the idea is whether you'd be willing to entertain this. So the idea is you would go back to the LWAP resolution.
Yeah.
Right now, there's a secondary resolution that is an amendment that essentially carves out affordable housing. And I would recommend that, if you are willing to entertain this, what the implication is there is that you go back to that resolution and see if you want to broaden that language or have another amendment
So we have the opportunity to define that.
at a later stage. Yeah, I don't think that we want to get into any of that now. This is basically, are you willing to entertain sort of a similar public benefit, sort of akin to affordable housing that would allow Mesa Park to swap and stack its meters because they have 2 meters and are basically potentially wanting to move some of their allocation from downtown up there.
What do you say, Kevin?
Nothing to add. I had the same sort of questions, but I like this proposal. I think
Oh,
it's clear.
okay, so let me open it up to members of the audience. Yeah,
I'm just kind of, isn't there in the original water moratorium rules about where water would be allocated towards? And kind of a hierarchy there where emergency services get the water first and those who have private properties would get the water allocated next if there was such an amount of water. And pools like number 4 in the list. It seems like it's a little out of order to me to be asking for water for a pool.
so you want to know whether the use of it, for instance, at the park would be superseded by a different use for different people.
Right, I mean, we barely have enough water to put out a fire.
As I recall, there is no limit on the water for fire. I mean, when I was in the fire department, we just turned on the fire hydrant and used it.
Well, I understand,
Yeah.
but what I'm getting is just, even if one fire could put out, or reduce our water supply down to a point where there may not be any water for the general public for a while until it's recouped.
And do you know the answer to his question about whether the moratorium has that kind of
Prioritization
Yeah.
list, I can't think of language in there that says that. I mean,
Look it
within
up.
you're talking about the resolution itself.
Yes,
I mean, yeah, I can't think of that link. I don't, it doesn't,
pretty sure.
okay.
why don't we research that, because that's a big question.
Right.
Okay.
But I think that also the point is here that we're not talking about expanding use in any way.
Right,
All we're talking about is effectively an agency deciding to allocate their usage in whatever way they see fit. So instead of watering the yard or the grass down at the park, they've decided to instead use that water to fill a pool. So, you know, obviously, when we get into restrictive drought conditions, as I've said before, these limited water use permits go out the door, and then we're imposing rationing.
Yeah.
But in no way is that are we looking at somebody's limit and saying, oh, you have, you know, access to 3,300 cubic feet per quarter. That doesn't matter, obviously, in those kinds of really restrictive states. People's limits are meaningless. You are looking at a totally different criteria for managing your scarcity.
One other question was, when it comes to putting in a public pool, don't they also have required that public showers also be put in?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the water allocation that the park would have would be subject to whatever the law
Right.
requires to provide to the public for health and safety, absolutely.
Yeah, and Matt, I would just suggest we did have a broader discussion around all of that, and that was, again, it was very superficial, but the numbers that were referenced in that earlier meeting looked at all of that in terms of like, okay, what is the amount of water that they need? I mean, obviously, that was the first sort of assessment to know they don't have enough water there to support a pool.
Right.
And so then that was effectively leading into this discussion. So we weren't intending to like go back and rehash all of those numbers
Okay.
at this point. This is more just to get us to a point where the board can give like very assured information to those who are interested in building a pool in terms of what is at their disposal to try to get more water up
Right.
there. And by more water, again, it's not that we're using more water, it's basically using the existing water and moving it around.
Got it.
And capping.
And capping it.
Yeah, I mean, at some level, if you're really interested in limiting water use, there's no limit right currently downtown.
Yeah.
So this will actually ultimately.
Is it downtown, or is it referring to the park downtown?
Uh-huh.
Downtown park, yeah, but I think that meter came from Tarantino's, which never had a limit on it, so this would finally put a limit on that,
Got it,
yeah.
thank you.
And any other comments from the audience on this? Okay. So would you like me to call the question on motion?
Yeah, but I would suggest, I mean, it's totally up to you guys, whether you want to go through each of these votes, have discussions, and then you could go through and vote on each of them. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Versus voting on them piecemeal right after the discussion. So
Oh.
up to you guys.
Shall we listen to all four and then do votes, or do you want to vote individually as we come up with?
I really don't care. Let's just
Let's-
move along.
Let's just do
Let's do all four.
all
Let's do
four.
all
Yeah,
four.
they-
Okay, so
they-
continue at number 2.
Okay. Number 2 says, the motion is that the board authorize that if upon operational determination of the daily or periodic amount of treated water must be produced and introduced into the potable system to ensure proper operation of the resource recovery well treatment facility, such operationally required water shall be allocated to Mesa Park and added to its LWIP. Staff estimates this operational volume may be on the order of approximately 200 gallons per day, which could result in an increase to the Mesa Park LWIP, though the exact amount shall be determined based on operational best practices established for the treatment facility. So I'm just gonna like say this in plain words. We have, as you know, the well at Resource Recovery that is treating, and ultimately it's not in place yet, but there's a small treatment facility that will pull water from the Resource Recovery well that otherwise would go to Mesa Park to irrigate the ball fields. In certain conditions, we will be able to access that water during times of drought. That's effectively the emergency drought well projects. So there's 2 of them. And we'll get to the second one in a bit, but this is one that just looks at treating that water from Resource Recovery during, you know, emergency use, either during drought or, you know, storms, etc. Where we can't use the Hondo, can't rely on the Hondo alone, or reservoir water. And the idea is, even though these are effectively emergency wells, we need to keep them you know, effectively with high quality water. So there's actually two storage tanks, but there's a treated water storage tank on the facility, which I'm sure everyone's seen there at Mesa Park. And it's very likely that we're gonna have to use a certain amount of that water in a daily fashion, basically just a sort of maintenance fashion, in order to make sure that that water doesn't stagnate. And so that effectively is an additional, and this is again, it says that this is just an estimate at this point of probably around 200 gallons per day that are essentially going into the system that otherwise before we, implement that well project, were not in the system. And so the question is, given that that water is also, essentially either would have otherwise been used by or could have been used by the park, would we want to allocate that to effectively increase their limit up at Mesa Park? So one other point just to make, when we got that the permit, the coastal development permit approved for that, specifically that resource recovery well project, it required us to ensure that we were not augmenting the usage based on what is being used currently. So essentially that well is used, as you guys know, between the current usages are resource recovery itself, or letting down the piles down at the green waste facility, Mickey's Farm, and then Mesa Park irrigation of the ball fields. So this is basically a fourth usage that is, treated potable water. But again, when you sum all of that usage, it can't be more than what is currently used. That was part of their insistence in terms of making sure that we were using this as a, maintaining the resource.
Okay, so again, let me just pull the board. What do you say, Kevin?
I like the solution. I like that BPUD has excess water to use. In some ways, if you look at it that way, which is maybe a new feeling for BPUD. There's no water meter associated with this well, right? So this
Yeah, there
from
is a
outside.
water meter.
There's a water meter associated with it. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, we have to track that water
Okay.
usage, and we meter like Mickey's usage, our usage.
Okay.
And there's gonna be a lot more meters that are gonna have to be introduced when we have the treated facility up and running.
Okay. That,
Andrew,
Yeah, I have any comments. Yeah.
Okay,
Because, so it has a meter, but it would never, because it's BPUD's meter, it would never be subject to.
yeah, sorry, I mean, the water is metered as in we,
Yeah,
we track it.
right.
it doesn't have one of the limited numbers of meters in the town.
No, it has nothing to do,
That's what I was asking. Is it-
Oh,
is it
sorry, it
like
was built
within-
in like 2013 or 2009, I'm not really sure, there's like these different iterations, but yeah. It was
2009,
2009.
yes.
And then I think you answered the question about just this water is going to storage and so has to be used. And
Yeah, we just basically need to dump that into the system
Yeah,
no matter what. And again, the details of that are not fully fleshed out, but obviously, and that's like kind of the
Yeah.
whole point here is that, if you say vote yes on this one, then that means like a cascade of information will come back to you when that information is known.
and my last question is just, how did you come up with an estimate of 200 gallons per day?
Just basically the overall size of that tank and figuring that you had to, use so much over a period of time in terms of making sure it doesn't stagnate. That was, and basically asking an engineer if that was reasonable. So,
Yeah, I just want to clarify that we are required to do that. Like that water needs to move out of that tank. It's,
yeah,
I mean, it'd be moving somewhere.
yes.
And we're saying it's okay to move it to the Mesa.
Yeah, and I
'Cause
think-
it'd be on the
Yeah.
grass or somewhere else on the property, basically.
All right, anybody in the audience want to address this proposal or discuss it? I would tell you from my experience with the resource recovery well, the concept in the beginning was as an emergency source of water, because we didn't have one other than the reservoirs. And the problems that we thought we were gonna be addressing were We don't know the quality of the aquifer. In other words, how much good water can it produce before the water goes bad? And how much water can you really draw from it before it stops being available? So because it has those uncertainties, you could never really count on it as a new source of potable water. The best you could do is count on it as a potential source of emergency water, or to supplement the kind of uses you're talking about here, because in an emergency, you could cut off the water to the park. Since it's not being used to support a household, you could just tell the park, you know what, that water is no longer available right now because we need it as an emergency. So I
Yeah,
wanted to
and,
make that clear too.
and one other point that we discussed in the last meeting that I think is worth rehashing here is also that they can't use that water as pool water because they need treated water in their pool.
Right.
So,
Sorry, they
Yeah.
can't use what water? You
Oh,
use
they-
well water as it is now.
yes, exactly.
Right, right.
Under
Yeah, we have to.
well water.
Yeah.
And our system
That
is
doesn't
not
make
set
it
up
enough.
to, our system will send that water back to the main. It's not gonna send it to, Mesa Park proper. or anything.
All right. You want to go on then to
Yeah, the
three?
next one is basically the exact same one. So I don't think I need to read it, but it's basically the same deal at 31 Wharf. So this one though is obviously an entirely different source. It's not a source that's in use now. This is basically a well that was established by BCLT, that was effectively licensed by the BCPUD once they figured out that they would have to become a public utility to, furnish water to the development there. So now we are essentially just akin to the resource recovery well. That project is intended to use that water under emergency conditions, either in drought or when our, Hondo is not usable. And then, or is being supplemented by these other sources. Similarly, same exact deal, we'll need to, that one has, it's a different setup, but basically you have one treated tank. And we'll have to, establish a usage to maintain the water quality.
Okay. Since it's so similar, I don't know if anybody on the board has any questions on this
No,
proposal.
I had, where's that tank?
Well, you mean what, where is it?
Yeah.
Like physically right now? It's at the sewer ponds.
Okay,
And we're,
So it's
we'll talk
going
about
down.
that in my manager's report in terms of where that project is at, but.
okay, and although the well is at 31 Wharf Road, obviously had
Mhm.
nothing to do with the water use at 31 because it's a BPUD.
Yes,
I
exactly.
just wanted to make that clear, so.
Yeah,
Can I make a comment on the well at 31 Wharf?
Yes.
Yeah, it's substantially different than the one at Resource Recovery because it both produces more and has a larger boring. So as an emergency well, it has the potential of supplying much more water. And it could also be a backup, therefore, to the resource recovery well if that's being taken for the pool or the park. Because as I understand it, the the problem with the downtown well is that it's in a different zone, and Rob can speak to this better than I can. So it's harder to get it up to the mesa. So it's best used as an emergency water source for all of downtown. And if it were pumping at its capacity, it could do that. And to George's point, the question is, how long at what capacity? But because it pumps at 200 gallons a minute, not a day, but a minute, it has a much greater potential than the resource recovery well.
Move on to item 4.
Sure. Seasonal pool filling using winter water availability. The motion is that the board authorize the initial and periodic filling of the proposed Mesa Park pool during winter or wet season months using available excess water subject to operational controls and staff oversight. So this is just the idea that we talked about last time, whether the board would be receptive to helping. They obviously need to fill the pool. This kind of usage that we're talking about in terms of what their limit is able to sustain is, once they kind of get into this treadmilling of having to replace water and provide for showers and all of that, But the idea that we talked about last time is whether the board would be willing to let them, when effectively that water would already, during winter, it goes down the Hondo. Or whether you wanna draw some of that water and provide that potable source to them in kind of one fell swoop to fill the pool.
Okay, one more time around, do you have any thoughts on this?
No, I mean, I guess that's assuming that that water is applicable for pool use on this initial filling.
Will it go through the treatment?
I think we treated,
Yeah, it's just our normal, it would come through their meter. So, that you would just essentially during that filling, you wouldn't be looking at, I mean, obviously they pay for that water and whatever, but it would effectively be some kind of MOU where yes, you can fill your pool because we have, we're not in any kind of desperate mode at this point. And
Yeah.
that's.
I mean, I think it's fine, it's because the intent is there, but my experience with pools is. They're usually bringing their own water in because they have to cure it and it has to. It's gonna be tested and treated and that may be less expensive than bringing their own water, so. The only thing that caught me out there was this initial.
Yeah, and then again, this is basically your willingness to entertain this. Obviously,
Yeah.
they could come to the same conclusion that you're saying, Kirsten, related about it's not gonna work, but.
They can figure that out.
all right, all of these are conceptual only, right? These are, yeah, okay, Andrew, any thoughts on this?
Would that, like, winter seasonal water be, that would not like, impact the, what that would be like exclusive of the.
I think so, yeah, I would suggest that what you're talking about here is a totally different,
Is that something that we've like talked to our council about?
Mhm.
Okay. I think I would support it as long as it's kind of within the framework of legality. for us.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what would be akin to this is. Contractors sometimes are, I mean, again, I don't know in terms of the total amount of use, but people sometimes don't have access to a meter. And will ask us, can we purchase water
Yeah,
for a very, and then we essentially from a hydrant where we're metering the water and they essentially pay us. One of the very first things we are doing is like, what is the state of our water source? We're not allowing people to do this, generally in like October or whatever, but.
but it's essentially like a retail water sale.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm. So that would be, the closest thing that we do permanently.
Evan, any thoughts?
I had the same question as Andrew, so no other thoughts.
Okay, anyone in the audience want to ask any questions or have observations on this proposal?
Yeah, this is Rob. Can you hear me?
Oh, okay, go ahead, Rob.
Hey, just to piggyback on his comment about well 31. Well, it's technically correct that it was tested for many days at 200 GPM. It has been permitted for and fitted with a production pump for 40 GPM. So I just wanted to make sure you all knew that as you were deliberating.
40, did you say 40?
40 gallons a minute. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, well, if there's no other discussion on any of these, how do you propose that we just vote as a package, 1, 2, 3, and 4, or take them
I
separately?
don't think so. I think separately because you could vote for one and not the other, and I think it just gets complicated. So if somebody could just bring forward the motion, another person can second it, then you guys can vote on it.
Okay, well, let's approach it that way. Let me go back then. Right. So number 1 is the swap and stack approach to allow Mesa Park to take downtown water meter and swap it and stack it with the one on the Mesa to provide more water up there, and they don't have as much needs downtown. That's the basic proposal. Can I get a motion on number 1?
I second.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Going to number 2. This would be an allocation of treated water for the resource recovery well, which would be pursued because it has potential availability to supplement, but not be the major source. This is a I understand it. As a source of water for the park and for other uses. So do we have a motion for number 2?
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
No. And number 3, this would be a similar motion for allocating the water from the well at 31 Wharf. Same concept that there's this a well that's available for other purposes, but could also be used for Mesa Park uses if it's available.
I'll make a move.
You move
Um,
number 3?
Yep.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? On favor?
Aye.
Okay, number 4. This would be basically filling the pool in winter time when there's excess water in Arroyo Hondo. Subject to the people who are using it to fill the pool would pay for the treatment of the water in the same way that anybody would be paying for the water, but it would be available because it's basically going over the dam and into the ocean at that point in time. That's how I see it. Does anybody want to make a motion for number 4?
It's a move.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, so we're in favor of pursuing all 4 of those concepts. I was gonna say Matt has left, huh? I was gonna suggest that one of the things you do as you put this together is go back and look at the original moratorium resolution and see whether there is a specified prioritization of uses in the way that he thought there might be.
Okay,
And if there is, then I include that in your report on that.
okay,
Okay.
sounds good.
Can I propose a 5th vote?
What? Of course.
Vote number 5, which is to look into using non-potable water, perhaps from the treated water from the sewer ponds, and sending that over to use either as irrigation in Mesa Park or flushing toilets or something like that. Look into the so
I would
taking
say
water from
we're
outside. the
already
system.
doing that through the OPC grant because it's addressing capacity issues.
Okay.
We already have a permit to do that. We've never implemented that because it's quite difficult to get it even to that irrigation grade. From our, wastewater, but I'd say those are things that are being addressed.
Okay.
I guess what you
Okay,
could,
good.
I mean, what I would suggest is obviously if that's being used in that way, then that just essentially gives everybody who's using the resource recovery well more leeway because it's not being used to irrigate the fields as much, right? So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I would suggest not adding it right yet. It's a little
Okay, sounds
complicated.
good.
Good point.
All right.
And
So-
then number 2, it's 40 minutes and 30 more items to go.
Take it easy, take it easy. All right. We're gonna move on to number 3.
Thank you, Georgia.
Consideration to direct the district general manager to form an ad hoc electrification committee. Tell us what that proposal
Yeah,
is.
so we've talked about this a couple of times now and looked at the potential for Bolinas to have more energy independence. And so I don't necessarily want to talk about all the details. We encourage people to go back at other meetings where we've talked about the sort of nuts and bolts in more detail. But effectively, there's been enough kind of interest in the community that has, both been kind of triggered from our initial efforts, but then also kind of within the Bolinas Civic Group meeting. And I would suggest at this point, there's enough of that kind of oomph for us, for you guys to direct me to form a electrification committee. And the charge of that committee is, I'm just gonna read these really quickly: investigate electrification and local energy opportunities applicable to Bolinas, engage community members and stakeholders in identifying priorities and concerns, evaluate potential and partnerships and programmatic approaches, including coordination with MCE and similar entities, assess strategies to improve energy resilience, cost stability, and local control, and evaluate the value and feasibility of the Spark Communities model alongside other potential pathways. That was Bob Krause's, information packet that I shared with you guys earlier. So if you could essentially take a vote to direct me to form that committee. And I'll obviously come back once the committee's formed and with, further updates once.
So the idea that you would then make an announcement to the community that we are interested in forming that committee, and if people are interested in joining it, they should submit.
Yeah, I mean, I think that all of that effort has already been happening in terms of, hey, are people interested in being involved in it? So that was kind of more grassroots. And now it's essentially, can I form that committee? That's sort of the idea.
Can you remind me what that committee might look like? I mean, is that require one board member?
No, I think this would be an ad hoc community
Okay.
committee. It has a specified charge. It doesn't have to have, Brown, it doesn't need to comply with the Brown Act and stuff like that. So it's just basically a committee that's charged with a specific thing that can come back and report to you guys on their efforts. That's what I would suggest. So I would not include any board members. I mean, the intention, if you guys remember, is like, we're interested in this. We see the potential here. We don't have the bandwidth to pursue this.
Right.
So it's kind of giving it some teeth in terms of, okay, it's not just a community just totally satellited outside of BPUD, but it's, essentially been formed by, a BPUD
Right.
governance.
Right, similar to the parking committee in a sense.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay, any discussion on the board? Okay.
Question,
Yeah, go ahead.
would you be on this committee or staff, anybody from staff or not necessarily?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think the intention is for us to really have,
Okay, great.
offloaded it, and obviously, the idea is that they would come back with reports. And if need be, if they get to a next stage where they need that staff input, you guys can make a decision at that point if you want to actually, direct staff to put more time into it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and any members of the audience have any comments?
I
Yeah.
do. I think it's a great idea and I really appreciated the civic group meeting where there was a proposal presented, or not a proposal, but information presented. And it was really good. So I think you could probably go back and see that on their website too. But the question I have is, would it be then possible for our staff members who work out in the field to be part of this on their own, not directed by the BPUD at this point, but if they have an interest, because they are people who are savvy and may have information that could be beneficial to such an ad hoc group. So is that a possibility? Would that be allowed?
I don't think we would prohibit it, but we wouldn't want it to interfere with their duties. as
No.
employees of BPUD.
No, you wouldn't, but I just thought you might want to put that information out there to staff saying that it is. They've got knowledge that's been
Sure.
acquired and would be helpful probably in
Okay,
a certain number of ways.
any other thoughts or comments about forming this committee?
Yeah, I just want to generally say thanks to Georgia and Bob and Isabel for kind of leading the charge.
Absolutely,
So,
yeah.
thank you.
All right, well then, can I get a motion to direct the general manager to form this ad hoc committee? Electrification committee,
I'll make that motion.
is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all in favor? Aye. Number 4. Garbage collection at Brighton Beach, supported by the latest community center and other beach entrances considerations. Janita Royan and Randy Arnold. Are either or both of you present?
Randy is not here, but I am. This is Janine
Right.
speaking.
You know, right in the middle of our screen.
Yeah, let me move
Yeah,
Yeah.
hold on, Janine, one sec, we're
One
fixing
second.
our screen so we can see your face.
Okay.
How's that? All right.
Good, yeah. Now we see you.
Okay.
Right.
So we can see
Yeah.
everybody who's.
All right.
What do you want?
Okay. There's also been, I don't you know, been some audio glitch, but hopefully, video glitch, audio video. So I hope the reception will be good.
We
Okay.
see you.
Okay. And I hear you. All right. So basically, there seems to be a convergence of situations around the Pelias Beach entrances. And one of them currently is, of course, the seawall project and the public benefits package. The project is ideally starting within approximately a month. Though I will say there are some goals that have not yet been met with that project. So hopefully they will be met, and hopefully the project will happen. The other reality is that the community center is very short on funds, and they have a lot of physical issues, building issues that need to be addressed to the tune of over $200,000. And they have been running the cleanup programs at both beach entrances. They have stopped running the Wharf Road one due to financial shortages. So that needs to be addressed. The other one is a general public interest in, or community interest in public education for beach visitors. There's just sort of a dearth of, you see at Agate Beach, there's a lot of information. You go to other beaches, there's a lot of information. There's no information at the Bolinas entrances other than signage. And then also the aesthetics. People have talked about the aesthetics or lack of, or what can be improved. And the AMJT is going to take over a lot of the upgrades, I suppose, at the Brighton Beach entrance. Anyway, so this all kind of comes together, runs together. How does the community center get more funding and that kind of thing? So anyway, I met with Georgia and Bell, and one of the things we talked about was it was called a information page on the BPUD website, which was specifically for beach related information. And those are things that I listed in the letter to you, safety, all that kind of thing, which could also include county notices, health notices regarding water, sewage spills, and that sort of thing. So it could be very useful to everybody. It wouldn't really be a cost to the BPUD. And the other way that it could be accessed would be through perhaps a QR code posted in various places, especially the beach entrances. I know there are problems with that. You could say, well, there's graffiti. Well, there are ways to get around that. So that is one item that is up for, it's a motion item, is to create this page on your website regarding beach entry issues and public information. Does anybody, well, maybe we talk to that one first, because there's two issues. Is there any questions or conversation for that regarding that?
Go
I think we already,
ahead.
oh, I was gonna say, I think we already have a page on our website about Bolinas Beach, so you just want it to be supplemented with more information?
Okay, I don't know if there are all the things that I had listed. Yeah.
Not
Because
all can be listed, yeah.
Georgia had suggested creating that and including the county safety issues and that sort of thing. And
I think, sorry, just to add here, what I was suggesting, and I think the motion says this, but basically, we can coordinate with the county about who is the appropriate host for that website, because I think that's the first decision, because it is a county beach, and it may make sense for us to host that. I mean, as we had a little trial period with the county beach closure, and it was true that the county did look to kind of lean on us to disseminate this information to at least the local community. So I don't think obviously if I thought this was a terrible idea, probably wouldn't have encouraged this item to be on there as drafted here. So, but I do think it requires more conversation with the county. So it's not the vote here, I don't think is directing us to put a QR code down there and expand our existing beach page. But I think it warrants, a conversation with the county about, hey, let's augment our dissemination of information as Janina's laid out, and potentially consider whether a QR code would be appropriate to, essentially, oblivious beachgoers could click on the QR code and be directed to some useful information.
So Megan, is this motion then perhaps premature, depending on how
No, I think the motion says, and to coordinate with Marin County to determine. So
Okay,
I think you guys are saying, yes, we're receptive to this idea. Go ahead and, look into it. And that ultimately, if we determine, hey, this makes sense, we don't have to come back to the board and say, okay, now can you take a vote to allow us to put a QR code down there? Like, I think the idea is that you guys are supportive of this idea generally.
okay.
That's not how the motion reads, however.
Okay.
It says that we're directing you to develop the information page. So that's a little bit different.
Yeah.
But the page already exists. It's mostly information about the beach closures from 2024, and there's the beach study from 2006, 2006. So it's bare bones, but the page already exists.
Yeah, and I mean,
But it
I
would be
think
keeping it up to date and things
Yeah,
like that.
I mean,
yeah, and I think adding the stuff that Gina's talking about, I would imagine we could, you'd have a bulleted list of, hey, these are the things that we would really like to be on a beach page. Okay, now we have a concrete thing that we can talk to the county about. Hey, county, we think all of this stuff should be, disseminated to folks visiting the beach.
Mhm.
Where do you think this information should go? Should we host this information? Should you host this information? Should both of us host this information? Are you guys okay with augmenting the signage down there to direct people to our web page or your web page or whatever? So I think that in as much as we already have a beach page that is not up to date, directing us to kind of get it up to date seems reasonable. It's not going to take us forever to put some information on there. I think that next level of like, how does that information get disseminated when you actually enter the beach? I think that's
Right, it seems that since it's not our beach, this seems very much like a county thing. If I was trying to find out about a county beach, where I'd go is to the county. Like, I would never go to the water district if I was Googling around or looking. So it seems a little peculiar to me. If the idea of keeping our page up to date, fine, keep it up to date. I'm not excited about posting QR codes at the opening to the beach, just because it seems like a very discordant kind of a thing to see.
You mean like a sign?
Yeah,
QR
yeah,
code
I
page?
would prefer that not to be the case,
Yeah.
but saying, having a URL or something up, there's already a bunch of signs down there. It seems like that could be added somehow to a county sign. So
Yeah, what if we were to delete the second part? In other words, can serve as a central repository for beach related information, and we put a period there and delete including potential use of a QR code signage. And then you could continue and to coordinate with Marin County. In other words, leave it more open. Because it sounds like the idea of QR code signage is not
doesn't,
something.
I mean, I don't know that we have to, do we have to decide now of what information, and maybe it's not to develop, but to enhance our already
Yeah.
publicly accessible
Yeah.
beach information page.
Yeah, I mean, the other thing I think in terms of this being a county beach is we could put a lot more on their lap around, hey, we want you to develop all of this information and we'll put a link to your page on our page. Right?
that seems very
Exactly.
reasonable to me.
Right, yeah, right.
Yeah.
So,
That would be less work for our staff,
yeah,
right?
it would.
Yeah, I
and
mean,
it's a
it still
time-
I think
means
that's the
sometimes
goal.
it seems like it would be less work,
Yeah,
but if you're gonna like,
If they did it, if they
Yeah.
were to do it.
I guess, the other piece of it that's holding me up a little bit is when there was all of that brouhaha about was the beach contaminated or not, the county's saying one thing, we're not necessarily sure that what they're saying has scientific accuracy. I don't want to be in the middle of that, and if we're posting things on our webpage, they need to be accurate, and so we'd have to put what the county says, and if we're disagreeing with it, it just seems potentially awkward to me. And Janine, I want to be clear that I think having more information about how to use the beach in a respectful way, an environmentally sensitive way, all those things, watch out for the fishing boats and don't surf in their way, all that stuff, all good ideas. I'm just not sure that this is the venue for it right here. But we can look into it.
yeah. Well, let's go back to the agenda item because it says, beach information page, and then there's a motion and what the language in the motion would say. So I'd say, I don't know if we're ready to make the motion now because I think we're still discussing what it would be. But I'm open to anybody's thoughts on finalizing the language, unless you like the way it reads now. But I think you've raised some good points, Grace.
Yeah, I agree. And maybe it just gets cut down to that last part, which is, reach out to the county to see how they could enhance their. So then I'm just gathering information around the receptivity of the county to,
Yeah.
I'm in favor of that, actually.
Mhm.
So should we pare down the language of the motion to just be towards the last section of it? Coordinate with Marin County to determine appropriate posting of information.
I think we'd say maybe bring in the other part to enhance publicly accessible beach information.
Okay, I don't have a problem with us having a beach information page, but I
We already
agree.
do, but
We
they're
already-
on it.
We have it, yeah,
Um,
Can I speak?
sure.
Okay, so as you know, the beach information page now is not specific as to where are the bathrooms, all the practical things that the beach visitors want to know about. Because I worked down there for 20 years and I hear these questions all the time repeated. So I think be it through the county, not through the BPUD, doesn't matter. But how does the visitor know to access that source for the information? And in terms of a QR code, it doesn't have to be on a big sign. You see them all over the place. They are small stickers that go on the side of a bin. It doesn't have to be a visual eyesight in any way. And in terms of the funding, this is something that perhaps AMJT, they expressed some interest in it in terms of funding for the stickers or whatever it takes. Anyway, I do think it's really important. How it goes about being done is, of course, addressed right now. But it has to be something that the visitors know. They know it's there. They see this is how I access it. This is going to answer my questions. Okay, that's all I have to say.
Let's bring this to a vote one way or the other here. So does anybody want to make any changes to the proposed language of the motion? Should we just leave it the way it is and interpret it the way we've been discussing? Anybody have any thoughts? Otherwise, I'm just going to suggest somebody make a motion to approve the language that's in our binder and give it to the staff to work with the county on.
Jenny,
Please.
Jenny has a
I'm
question.
sorry, I have a question. I'll keep it short, but in trying to report this out as a hearsay reporter, I am kind of lost, and I know I'm last century about QR codes, but how does QR code connect to garbage? Somehow that was a leap for me. We started out on this item talking about garbage collection, and Janine, I appreciate what you're trying to do here, and I get it. But what I'm missing is I don't know how to report this because I'm not understanding.
I think what Janine's proposing is a QR code that somebody can take their phone and your phone would take you to a website, whether it's hosted by BPUD or hosted by Marin County, with all this sorts of information, useful information, where the bathrooms are, Marine Mammal Center information. So
I get that. What
Okay.
I'm not getting is the garbage collection.
It's separate.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There's two, the item broadly is called Bolinas Beach entrances. One is an informational page to increase the information that visitors receive or accessible when they visit the beach. And then the other is the next item we're going to get to. That's
I see.
garbage related.
Okay, but let me just speak to the connection with the
All right, I'm gonna get us to vote one way or the other on this item one motion, so we can keep going. Is there anybody who wants to make any changes to the motion as it's drafted?
I think maybe to satisfy Grace, we could, and others, not just you, Grace, ask staff to look into this page. So not necessarily create a page, but we're looking into it. We're communicating with the county to determine who should host it, whether it's us or them or both. So it's more of an exploratory examination by the staff. Is that,
Yeah,
How does
isn't
that
it
sound?
just swapping the language a little bit so that I would say that the board directs staff to coordinate with Marin County to determine appropriate hosting of the information page given county jurisdiction over the beach. That.
You could say
accessible
hosting
police.
and enhancement.
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's just taking the and to coordinate with Marin County and bringing that up front.
Uh-huh.
yeah, direct staff to coordinate with Marin County
Yeah.
to develop a publicly accessible Holiness Beach information page.
Perfect.
Okay, so then, can I get a motion for the amended version that was just articulated?
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. All right, let's go on to the second one, letter of support for fiscal sponsorship.
Hey, oh, can I speak to the question that was just asked about how this relates to the garbage? Which is that there would be a connection to the community center or any other agency that is providing that service, that people would make donations towards
Oh.
beach stewardship, cleanup, whatever. That would be the only ask
I
on
see,
on that site, none other.
I see. It doesn't tell you where to put your trash or,
Well, whatever is appropriate would be on that site.
okay.
Yeah, good call, Janine.
So it says letter of support, but then there's slash fiscal sponsorship. Is this a proposal that the BPUD actually makes some kind of financial contribution towards this? Or,
No, not at all. What it is amongst all the information and the links that are on this site, there would be one to the, well, hopefully it's still the Billings Community Center. We don't know which agency will be providing the service, but assuming that they're still providing the cleanup service, that the public could donate to the beach and entry cleanup via the Billings Community Center. The public would have the ability to donate to beach cleanup.
I see.
okay, so you're looking for a letter of support from the BPUD, which supports that concept of the community center being in charge of this? Is that what the motion is?
Okay, we're done with we've already voted on the first one. Now we're on the second one, correct? Because I was answering
Correct.
the question from before. Okay, so the second one, the reason for this letter, okay, we're talking about a letter of support here, is that, okay, there's a couple things going on. One is that you're familiar.
I'm gonna have to ask you to speed it up only because we have quite a long agenda, so
Okay,
I think we get the idea. I'm just asking you whether you're looking for more than a letter of support from the BPUD.
no,
Okay. So we get what the letter of support would be.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is the Bolinas Beach is a county beach, right?
Yes,
And the access points to the beach are county.
partially on Brighton.
Does the Bolinas Community Center clean the trash at the tennis courts and the bathrooms there?
No,
No,
tennis courts are county park all the way.
But so is this. Why is the Bolinas Community Center entertaining this effort? Why is the county doing this?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important when we have discussions with the county. I mean, I've had discussions with the county on this because obviously you guys know that I've been making efforts to augment the trash cleanup. And some of that is basically folded into this whole 100 Brighton project, which makes it more complicated because there's a lot of modifications going on there. But I agree, and when I've talked to them specifically about that, it turns out that because they also serve the
I get beach.
Aga Beach, so that's a county. But those are actually designated county parks, so they're the jurisdiction of the parks, whereas the county beach is not.
Okay.
So they're reluctant to take this on, but I think there's a really compelling argument that it's more their responsibility than the Bolinas Community Centers and definitely than the BPUDs. So I think that, and when we met with Janine, we were all in agreement that this requires, bringing in the county and really for, I mean, again, I think all of these, it may make sense for local agencies to really conduct the work. And it may be that the county is just providing the funding to support that work. because we're already out here and all of that. But they need to contribute something.
Mhm.
So I think we were very much aligned. I think anybody who thinks about this for not very deeply, for not very long, comes to the same conclusions.
Someone like me.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Andrew, if you can do it.
I do remember when the county was involved, and that was way back when I was on the board. And the county did step up and there's
There's a-
to put
They're cut
dumpsters
out.
down there, and there was a huge pushback on that. Because the residents down there had a huge rat problem. All of a sudden, the rats just were off the charts because other people were putting their garbage in the
Yes.
dumpsters. So the county pulled those away because there was so much. So just giving you that little piece
Oh,
of
that's right.
information. When the county is asked to do something, you have to accept what they're gonna do, and it may not be
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, thanks, Finn.
Okay, can I add here? The AMJT public benefits package, which are required to install, may or may not, but I think probably will have a fiscal sponsor, a nonprofit fiscal sponsor. If the project even comes through to fruition. So, and also in the past, the neighbors have been very generous in donating towards the beach cleanup when we called on them for an improvement and upgrade, both Wharf and Brighton Avenues. So the letter would be to recommend that the community center be the fiscal sponsor or be the source where you send your funds to be processed, therefore giving the community center something towards their financial needs at this time. I'm not to say that the county is in charge. You know, there's so many different property lines and that kind of thing. We know that the county is in charge of the beaches, but this is more about a fiscal sponsorship and encouraging people to donate via the Billings Community Center for beach cleanup.
All right, so this would be a letter from the BPUD sort of to the public in general,
Yes,
that we support the community center being the fiscal sponsor of a project to deal with the issues at the entrances to the beach. Is that right?
yes, it is.
But it doesn't require any commitment on our part to do something, pay money or participate actively in it from staff, just that we support the concept. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, okay, let me go around the table again. What do you think about this, Grace?
I assume the community center wants to continue to do this.
That's what
That was my question.
But I mean, so we met with Randy, and Janine, and that was the understanding.
I mean,
So,
Randy, I mean, they do that for a lot of different groups in town there,
fiscal sponsor.
the fiscal sponsor. I just wanted to make sure. And we're just,
Being supportive of.
we're just, it seems to me that this letter would primarily be publicity so that people know that that's.
Yeah, I mean, I think the idea is also you could deliver this to AMJT when they're thinking about who they want to be their fiscal sponsor, if they're considering different entities.
But they're only responsible for Brighton Beach.
Mhm.
Not Wharf Road.
Yeah,
Yeah,
So
so
I would want it.
they could put a restriction on the
separate.
money they donate. In other words, it could be divided into two subcategories.
Right.
Anyway, just be our letter of
Yeah.
support for them as fiscal sponsor. Are you in favor of it in principle anyway, or do you want to see the
Yeah, I mean,
letter?
my question, yeah, if the BCC is wanting to do that, and when you mentioned that. Helping with their needs, I'm assuming they get something for being the host.
Yeah.
Of this
Yeah.
fund.
It
Yeah.
mostly just pays for the
And
bookkeeping.
then I think lastly, you know, what I appreciate, thank you for that historical insight is. Us having some say, I'm gonna speak specifically for Wharf Road about where those bins get located. Cause that's a challenging site down there.
Okay, what do you say, Andrew?
I support the concept. Yeah.
Okay, and Kevin?
As you are.
Yeah, me too. All right, is there anybody in the audience that has any last comments? All right, so can I get a motion then to have us write that letter of support as it's set forth in the motion?
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Janine, so we're gonna do both of those.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
I have one more message from Randy and myself in that the community center will be not a fiscal, sponsor a advisory committee. The community center will be the liaison for a study of the beach entrances, taking ideas of options for signage, options for this, options for that. And just so you know, that will be open for public input and the neighbors, that kind of thing, to try to come up with a plan that is doable and financially responsible and that kind of thing.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay.
Right, I'm gonna move on to item 5. Consideration to accept a donation of electric lanterns from David Chap Van Leeuwen. And David has offered to provide the BPUD with these lanterns that he has acquired. And my biggest question would be, I don't know where they would go, but what is the board? Let me just go around the table and see what the board thinks about the gift donation, first of all, in general, and then we can answer the second question. What do you think, Kevin?
Yeah, I appreciate the offer. These lanterns are beautiful. But yeah, space for me is the issue, and it seems like they're indoor lanterns. Couldn't really tell if they're indoor and
Indoor,
outdoor.
he said indoor.
Indoor, okay. So yeah, space and
They've got them outdoors.
I thought
they were outdoors.
yeah, I mean they
They're
live
outdoors.
outdoors.
I think they're
I think he
outdoors,
said
but
they're,
he said indoor.
Indoor.
he said indoor, and he also, sorry, just to let you know, he also reached out to me and realized that the BPUD building is kind of not in play right now. So he was questioning whether he should, bring this forward or not. But I just said, go ahead and, let the public know, et cetera. So, but they are indoor.
Oh, okay, and they're large too, as shown in the photo.
Yeah.
So, what are your thoughts, Kevin, on the gift offer?
Yeah, I think not knowing what the future of this building is.
Yeah.
I would say probably not accept the offer. Not having a place for them in mind yet.
Okay, Andrew?
I would respectfully decline to accept them for the same reasons.
Yeah. What do you think?
But I
Yeah.
appreciate the gesture.
Yeah, I mean, I again also appreciate the gesture. I'm not sure where we could house them. I don't know about funding for ongoing long-term maintenance. And I just think maybe I'm going to say as a precedent, if others were to come with us with their art, we would be in a similar situation of like, where are we going to locate them? How are we going to maintain them? So thank you, but I'm going to say not this time.
Grace?
Yeah, I think they're beautiful too. I was envisioning one up by the water intake in a Royal Honda, and I thought it would be amazing looking. It would be so amazing. But yeah, I just don't think we don't have room for them.
No, right.
And they are big.
Do we need a motion then to formally reject it, or we just we didn't accept them? Yeah, we didn't know where to put them. But thank them for the offer. Okay. Item 6, bike path update, status letter from County Development Agency.
Yeah, just letting you guys know that we got our letter. It was more exhaustive than we were hoping, and I'm continuing to work with the county on it. I will come forward with more information as it develops. There's a lot of urgency around this, so I have essentially leaned on the bike path committee to move, and whenever I need guidance from the board, it's just obviously not going to be feasible to call special meetings or have it happen monthly. So in as much as you guys can rely on Jack and Kevin to be your surrogates in this decision making, I would appreciate that.
Right.
It's pretty reliable to me.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say for kind of future updates, it would be helpful, maybe if you could just remind us about, like, I got my calculator out to calculate all the funds raised. It looks like it's 427, and I think you indicated spent 70, right, to date, so.
Yeah,
We have about 402,000 left, and then I'm wondering what we think the estimated cost is, and.
Yeah, I mean, I would refer you back to that bike path special meeting that broke down all of that, and I can bring that forward again.
Okay. If you
But
don't
yeah,
mind
we
just
basically,
referencing that, so I can look at that
Mhm.
next time,
Yeah.
and you don't have to include it. but-
Yeah.
Or reference it, because I think now we're talking about 20 months left. To get this complete. And I don't recall what the projected construction timeline.
yeah,
was.
the construction timeline is pretty short.
It is.
And it was for us to go out to bid this winter. And then the construction window happening the 2027, like, summer. So we're still in line with all of this, but this is exactly why this protracted
Yeah,
permitting is really potentially disruptive. Just to point out, I mean, a big part of this was essentially, we were assured that we would be able to rely on the existing permit from 2007, which at that time was deemed ADA compliance. The big thing here is that essentially DPW is saying like, oh, what about crosswalks and all of this kind of stuff, which is, obviously gonna completely quash the project if that's what we have to do. So, I mean, again, we're just kind of, at this point, I'm internally dealing with the county on this in hopes that they can rectify and kind of give them a little more freedom in a more kind of discreet setting to see if the staff can rectify it. But I think ultimately, and that's why I think it's important to just have the bike path committee really like empowered to make bold decisions about, okay, now we need to send a letter to Rodoni and push back or whatever it's gonna look like. So I'm hopeful, but I also think that we're prepared to kind of put up a fight if they're gonna be really difficult about it.
it was probably just establishing that timeline, like at what point do we say, hey, let's put up a fight, hire the right guy to go back to the county.
Well, we'll see when we get there. All right,
I have a real quick update too. I attended last night Safe Routes to School workshop,
Okay.
Bolinas campus with Wendy Callens from Safe Routes to School. Superintendent Leo Kostelnik was there and some community members. I wasn't there on behalf of BPUD, just as a parent who likes to walk and bike. We mapped out sort of all the walking biking issues around Bolinas, specifically, the mile radius around the school. We talk a lot about this bike path and the fact that we're bordering a county road. So hopefully that will lead to some advocacy from that organization also. So,
Yeah, and as much as they could write a letter of support, that may be helpful
yeah,
too.
I think they could, yeah.
Yeah, they have from the beginning.
okay, there is no item 7, so I move on to item 8. This is a limited water use permit application for the property at 123 Jute. AP number 190-23-233. The shipper is Brett the shipper. I see your name on the screen. Are you there?
Yep, with Catherine as well.
All right, very good. So we've been provided with a copy of your application for a limited water use permit and the description of your project, which is an 800 square foot, 2-bedroom, 2-bath house on an acre of undeveloped land. And of course, to get a permit from the county, you have to go through the BPUD and get a limited water use permit. So that's the reason that you're with us right now. Georgia, do you have any recommendations from the staff on this?
No.
Okay. All right, so normally we would give you what's called a limited water use permit that would base the amount of water on what average household usage. Yes, right?
Plus
Where's,
a buffer.
Plus 50%.
where's the meter bin?
It's
This
there.
undeveloped land, but there's a meter attached to it. I just didn't understand that part.
I think there's a house on it.
No, I don't think, I
There's the
think there's a
greenhouse.
shed, and I think Penny had used it for planting some fruit trees and stuff like that, it's my recollection.
This is a property that's just down the road from us, right?
there.
Right, it's
Yeah.
just across the way.
Yeah, that's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah.
So you have a meter already,
correct.
Yes,
Right, but it hasn't been used as a family residence up till now, right?
right. It's been agricultural up until now.
So it's had more limited water use, and now you're gonna be using it to provide a home for all families. Is that correct?
Yes. And we're also going to be farming and growing things as well.
Okay, so you realize that there's a limit that we have on all
Yeah.
of our water meters already, and that you'd be allowed to use that much water per quarter.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Any discussion from members of the board on this?
I would just say, looks like a good plan and good luck with the county.
Thanks.
Thank you.
We're easy.
I did have a question, because I remember looking at this property for some other potential parties interested in purchasing it, developing it, and we were advised that it was part of the Bolinas Mesa gridded plan from 1984. Have you looked into that at all and the drainage way, because it I thought had been identified as an area that
Yes.
was not developable? Okay, so you were.
Yes. Yeah, we looked into it. We did a consultation with the county. And
we had a biologist
We had a
come and
biologist
spend
come out.
time on the land and evaluate everything and look into it. So yes.
A biologist.
Yeah.
I mean,
For the
well,
drainage.
it's gonna be about whether it perks for septic.
It does.
and-
We've got a
septic.
septic approval and we have,
Yeah,
I mean,
so that's what the county said is the facts on the ground, having a septic approval is what they needed to see.
Great.
Okay. All right, then, does anyone want to make a motion then to grant this application based on the limits that we apply?
I have one more question, Jack.
Sure.
I think this was on our agenda for last month, but it got postponed. I think I remember reading that you aren't building the ADU this time around, but are you getting the building permit for it? Or
No.
so you're not, so.
No.
We are not.
Maybe this is a question for Georgia, would we see this project again? If in the future they decide to pursue the ADU?
No, not when somebody already has a limit.
Okay,
The ADU would not allow them to expand the limit.
I mean, because we only look at this in the context of a limit, and then it would be moot, right? Because you already have a limit on the home.
okay.
All right.
So you're aware of that then?
is that
Yeah.
us? Yes.
Yes, the water limit applies to the meter. It doesn't matter whether there's an ADU or not, is my understanding.
Right,
That's correct.
all right, that's our cap.
Okay,
Okay. Anybody want to make a motion then to approve the application for a limited water use permit?
I'll make that motion.
All right.
and that would be for 2,700 cubic feet per quarter, I
Yeah.
assume?
Yeah, yes, that's included in the motion, right?
Oh, it is, okay.
I'm just confirming that with Andrew.
In my motion, yes.
Yes.
Yeah, thank you.
The only thing I mentioned earlier to Belle is your APN number doesn't match up on your application.
Whatever you want to answer.
You can answer.
On the form they filled out, you mean?
Yep.
So it was three.
With what's on your plan.
So it was 3 properties when
Yep.
Penny owned it. And then we merged, so it had 3 different APN numbers and then we merged the 3 properties. So now we've got 1 APN number.
Okay, so this,
So we should update the APN number on their permit to their merged one. Is
We
what you're
should.
saying,
Got it.
Kristen?
23-233. I don't know.
is you're saying that's the new merged APN number.
That's probably the old one that we pulled off, or
233 is the new number.
That's the-
That's what I think.
There you
That's
go.
what
so it's the
saying.
plans
Yeah.
are off.
Yeah, the originals were 4, 28, and 29.
Okay,
Merged together, they became, the county assigned 233.
all right. Andrew, you made the motion as I recall.
Yes, sir.
Is there a second?
I'll second, go ahead.
Great.
All right. All in favor?
Hi,
Aye. Congratulations and good luck on your project.
good luck.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Going on to, you're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, of course.
Okay, it's pretty exciting.
Item 9, limited water use permit application for 108 Olima Bolinas Road. Peter Murch is here.
Yeah.
And yours is the one across the street from the school, is that right?
That's right.
Okay, and we have your application in front of us. And is there already a limit on this property? Do you know?
No, I do not believe so.
Okay. So You're remodeling that house pretty much from the ground up, huh?
That's right, we're taking the 3-bedroom house and turning it into a 2-bedroom house and a 1-bedroom ADU.
Okay,
So I'll have it set a different street number.
all right, cool. And the same thing applies to the people that we just talked to, which is you'd have a limit on the amount of water you can use on the permit, okay? Anybody have any questions or concerns about this project? And if not, can I get a motion then to approve his application?
I guess my question is. So currently it's a 3-bedroom house and now you're going to a 2-bedroom house and a 1-bedroom ADU. Are you adding any bathrooms or, I don't know, like will there be additional washer situation for the ADU? I'm just wondering if the LWIP applies here, if they're not actually expanding their use of their property. Or just creating an ADU, does carving out an ADU trigger the LWIP?
I think it does.
Okay.
I think his permit process triggers it, LWAP.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions from members of the board? No.
No, I just want to say that it's really been great to see that old house.
Oh,
be
yes.
Given,
Well,
you know, I
for
think it's
sure.
really
Yeah,
great.
absolutely.
And we're glad to have
Getting
you back.
exciting,
Yeah.
Getting to see it on the way, you know.
Yeah.
Great, that means you're gonna be living here.
Yeah. All right, can I get a motion then to same kind of motion, you wanna make it again?
Yeah, I would make that motion for 2,700 cubic feet per quarter limited water use.
All right, is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Look here.
You're welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Thanks for coming in.
See you later. Bye now.
Don't have a life,
All right, going on to item 10. This is a limited water use permit application for the property at 97 Brighton, Rosenblatt. Somebody here on this,
You're there.
is this Gary? Gary Rosenblatt?
Yeah, I don't think he's here.
Um.
And as I think it's probably clear in the paperwork, but he's basically legalizing an existing ADU.
Yeah, and I would say that just to remind you guys, we had a very similar one come before you with the church.
Yeah.
And you guys just implemented the 2,700. I mean, you can look at his usage. I don't think it's gonna impact him at all. But
Yeah,
I think it's pretty straightforward. I would say let's not delay it and wait for him to be here.
I would agree with that too. I don't see anything in the application that indicates that increase in water usage, but we would still apply the limited water use permits, right?
Yeah, and we just, I mean, for members of the public that are interested, we discussed this sort of theory behind this. In the context of the church and them legalizing an existing unit. And why it made sense to apply a limit.
Okay,
Is it certain that that's what they're doing?
well, he lists what they're doing.
It just says upgrade stairway to safety standards, which
Yeah.
doesn't indicate if it's legal, like their unit is legal. Vent over stove, add drywall for complete separation from garage, plus like a fire rating. Water heater straps and replace missing electrical outlet covers.
Yeah, it seems very
So-
surface or. you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't understand why it was even in front of us with these kind of.
Probably.
Well, that was my understanding is he's spoken to folks in the office directly and he is trying to permit an existing ADU unit.
It would have been helpful to have had some kind of plan associated with it, was my thought.
I mean, I don't know if he has plans because it's so old. I don't know. Yeah. Something to explain more what's going on, I guess.
Well, I don't know how could he be applying for a permit if he doesn't have any plan?
Yeah,
Is it possible that he's applying for the limited water use and not permitting it, but just?
No, he got the county, he went to the county and that's how we ended up with the limited water use permit process. But he basically said, oh, I have this unit that I'm trying to legalize.
So they may have given him a set of things that they need in order to.
I think it's kind of requiring him to have a permit from us.
Mhm.
I don't see any reason why we can't grant it though.
Yeah, I mean, it seems pretty straightforward.
It is, yeah.
Well,
Well, you wanna
It's
make a
one more
motion?
limited water use. permit.
Yeah, it just puts a limit on it, yeah, he doesn't have one now.
All good.
No, so it's just.
I would move that we grant him a limited water use permit for the normal amount.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I got caught out is here we are having new houses ground up and this looks kind of modest in comparison to requiring to go then LWAP. Now I know we would like to encourage everybody to convert over
Well,
to
I'm
LWAP.
trying to remember what was brought forward.
Yeah, they can't.
You guys remember?
I don't, not accurate.
Also a stair. wasn't it?
Yeah, it's just like some, I think this is maybe some protocol that the county is,
Oh,
yeah, a code thing to effectively, I have no idea. But anyway, I don't remember like extensive plans for the church one either.
yeah,
But the church would be a more public entity. Yes.
but it was the
Residential, probably next to the church.
No, it's
Owned by the church.
residential ADU.
On the corner.
I think for
Right
me,
here.
just reading what we have presented, I would say there's not enough information to say that this
warrants a limit.
warrants a limited water. use.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay.
Um,
I mean, yeah, I mean, I think from our standpoint, he basically said, I'm looking to legalize an ADU.
Yeah.
That's an existing ADU. So that's,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so what are we deferring this? Are we voting on it? What's the decision?
I think it would be great if the applicant could speak for
Let's
himself,
put it
but
over.
I'm.
I mean,
Do it.
I agree with you. When I read it, I'm like, we're not talking, there's nothing to do with the water in this description.
Yeah, no, there is nothing to do with water.
Was
So,
he- was
but
he-
he's required to get a permit from the county and
Yeah.
they're sending him through us
Right.
as they always do.
But they don't necessarily know if it's required by us.
Right.
I mean, like it's our
They
discretion.
just need to have a decision.
It needs to be checked.
Yeah.
no, but I think that even if there was an accompanying letter, I don't think it's appropriate for us to get into the weeds of he is or is not
Yeah,
permitting this ADU.
yeah.
It's basically, he is, I mean, and that's what he's described to us, right? So Bell, he spoke directly to Annie and you, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's looking to legalize an ADU, and I'm guessing that he has to fulfill these codes in order to code violations to do that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, in as much as we could, we could have a letter next time this kind of thing comes forward that just describes that. Or some kind of evidence that is like, essentially what the county is asking of him. But really, it's not the county that's telling us that we need to do that. It's us
Right.
scrounging the permits and seeing that this came forward and understanding, then talking to him that he's trying to permit an ADU and understanding that you guys set a precedent for, okay, when you're permitting an existing ADU, essentially we would have given you a limit at the time and had you
Okay.
done it above the board.
Mm.
So that's what we're doing.
That's an idea.
Do it.
I mean, I get that. I just. That's not what this says. So.
Right, it doesn't talk about legalizing an ADU, and George's point is, but if it did, then that would justify it.
But
Yeah, I mean, last time, obviously, the folks from the church were here to describe all of it, right?
Yeah.
But in 20 years, when we're looking back at the record at this approval, potentially, it's like, why did we approve that?
And there has been times in the past, and I don't know if I know we're trying to move forward to kind of addressing maybe more LWUPs, but the board has given not like permits, but they're sort of unconditional or something like that they're called. And so they're like, they go through the LWUP process and the board decides this doesn't have an impact on water use. And so we're going to give you a permit that doesn't have a limit, but it's an unconditional permit.
Right.
I've seen that in the past.
But I think the argument is somewhat compelling that if the ADU had come before us first, it would have triggered an LWUP.
Yes,
Mhm.
right.
Okay.
How about if we approve this to move things along, conditional upon the fact that he writes up some description of what the letter we would have liked to see in the beginning, then we won't have it on our agenda next week.
I mean, honestly, this description of project, I mean, if really he's doing all of these like details because he's looking to legalize an ADU, then that would be the description of the project, right?
Yeah.
If it had just set up, like in terms of your record keeping, Andrew, right? You just add a line there. So basically what we can do is if you guys direct us to complete this with the understanding that we would go back and have him make that description more like meaningful.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's
I'd be
exactly
okay
it.
with
If he had
that,
just said this is to legalize an existing ADU, then we, yeah.
Okay, all right, so.
We probably threw them off by saying be specific.
Right, well, that's good.
Right down to replacing missing electrical outlet.
Yeah.
That was
That really got me.
All right,
I
so
okay.
are we ready then to make that motion with the condition that we obtain a confirmation letter that clearly specifies what the project is in a broader sense?
Yeah.
Yes. Okay,
Fair.
anybody want to make the motion then?
I so move.
All right.
I'll second.
You'll second?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, that gets us to number 11. Transfer of limited waters permits from 130 Mesa Road. AP
Yeah.
193-02-038 to 31 Wharf Road, AP 193-06-103. And this is an application from the Bolinas Community Land Trust.
And I just want to point out a typo in the agenda item. It says 130, it should say 160.
That's true. Yeah. Okay, so this is a transfer from 160 Mesa Road to 31 Wharf.
Yep.
And Jeff, are you here to speak to that?
Yeah, I mean, we transferred the water from 31 Wharf up to the service the RV park. Now that we've purchased 160 Mesa, we can transfer the water from the RV park back down to 31 Wharf. What we're doing here is because we purchased the 160 Mesa, it has a large water allocation. We're actually going to take the allocation from 160 Mesa and bring it down to 31 Wharf and leave the water at 130 Mesa. So it's the same water that went up is coming back, just slightly different.
Did you ask the question?
Yeah.
The original transfer was between the Gibson House and 31 Wharf. And so as I understood it, the Gibson House had the higher water usage than 31. So 31 was supposed to go to the Gibson House, so that you had the two high use water meters at 31 and 160. So it seems like, I don't know what's happened to 31, but somehow
31, once we do this transfer, we'll have the water allocation it needs. 130 Mesa currently has the water allocation it needs. And 20 Wharf, the Gibson House has the water out.
so they already did that
Yeah.
transfer.
Yeah,
And at this point, all of these meters have limits on
yes.
them? Right.
Yeah, and so just I think the pertinent thing is basically these bullet points where you can look and you can see the current allocations and what they are, and obviously those decisions were made at prior board meetings, but those are all the verified limits that are associated with all of those BCLT properties. And then effectively, if you guys approve the transfer, you can see 160 is going to decrease to 10,483. 31 is going to increase to 12,250. So basically, this is, essentially our record keeping of how these things are moving along.
But the totals add up to the same total.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, if you look at basically the difference there of where they stood. So 160 is currently at 16,733 and 31 Wharf is at 6,000.
Yeah. Okay, is there any discussion on anybody on the board, anyone in the audience have any comments or questions about this? If not, can I get a motion then from someone on the board to approve this transfer application?
I'll make that motion.
All right, is there a second?
Second.
All right, any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay,
Congratulations.
there you go. All right, now based on what we said at the beginning of the meeting, I'm going
Yes.
to jump down to item 20.
Mhm.
Update on resource recovery project.
3 years since last. 3 years.
Wow. Okay, so this is Val.
Yes. I wasn't thinking I was going to be doing this, so I didn't pull up my statement. I don't know if you want to read it, Georgia, or I can look for it.
Sure, but then why have you stuck around this whole time?
Yeah.
Because I'm nice. I mean, I'll speak to it. Hold
Yeah,
on.
so this is basically off the heels of us having had a meeting with the stakeholders, which is and like, you know, effectively experts. So Jeff Reef, George Krakauer, Don Murch, Mickey Murch, and who else was in that meeting, Bell?
That was it.
And
Jeff Creek. Yeah, you said that right.
yeah, I think so. Anyway, so essentially off the heels, as you guys remember, we had we talked about resource recovery and the finances down there as part of our budget review. And essentially, even though we raised rates last year, it's still essentially running a budgetary deficit. So one of the things we discussed was moving the rates up to, and sorry, I'm moving ahead on your thing.
Yeah.
But if you look at the finances, this is the last thing. We are considering moving the rates from $30 to $40, and to provide some context there, West Marin Compost, Nicasio is at $40 per cubic foot yard, so that would just be basically comparable to the nearest facility. And then Marin Resource Recovery Center is approximately $50 to $60 per cubic yard. Bell's summary here provides some context as to why we think that you know, essentially we're not covering ground. I think we talked about this a little bit in the budget meetings. But with the new green waste program for Recology, Recology had when Senate Bill 1383 came in place, where you had to get rid of food waste into your green waste bins, then we were no longer accepting and receiving funding effectively from Recology, and that likely has impacted the revenue. And anything else worth mentioning there, Elle?
No, just sort of, you know, everything costs more. The grinds are costing more each time, and just general upkeep of the place. But we're just not bringing in the same amount of income as we used to. Joe is concerned that the raising the rates the last time might have had an impact. Unfortunately, he's the one who has to like interface with people who are trying to haggle with him over price. So, you know, he feels like people are upset about the $30, but he also understands that we might need to raise the rates to the $40 rate. But he feels like maybe people aren't dropping stuff off. Jeff, who is at Nicasio, says that people aren't going to Nicasio to drop their stuff off. I think they're just trying to like get Joe to lower his prices by haggling with him and telling him they're not going to come there. So, I mean, it's one of those things where.
Oh, sorry, just to chime in, Belle, one other thing that Jeff said is that Nicasio is running a deficit too. So for whatever reason, I mean, I don't think we're alone in this, and it's maybe some systemic things going on in the green waste.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say that it's one of those things where it's a community benefit. It helps with fire fuel reduction, obviously, in the community. That's why George is super involved in it. And obviously, just the process of taking our green waste, turning it into compost. It's also very attractive to the county. There's some agencies that are starting to think about biomass and sort of doing on a more larger scale or in more areas of the county, doing somewhat what we do at Resource Recovery. So we were talking to them about that. So it's like a good thing, but it's how do you make money at it? Is the community willing to somehow help, you know, keep this thing alive is really what it comes down to.
Yeah, and so we also talked to George and Stinson Beach Fire, that are the, you know, contributing agencies along with us, about augmenting the amount of money that we contribute. So we'll probably come forward with a request to augment that. Currently, it's at
2,500.
2,500 of each of us.
Yeah.
Is there anything for the board to do? I mean, it's informational, right?
Yeah, we moved
Yeah.
informational things forward, so we're past our action items now.
Okay.
Because I'm lean. And just
What?
To dump a load.
No, $40 per how much?
Yard.
per cubic yard,
Cubic yard, okay.
which is essentially like a small pickup truck kind of size.
Yeah,
And
okay.
then we currently are down to one person. We have Joe who's down there. Unfortunately, Greg is unable to continue working there. So moving on a little bit later will be the job description. We're trying to find somebody else who can come in. And Joe has had some, stuff going on where he's having to close the site early to go to appointments and things like that. And so we're really trying to find somebody who can supplement and work with him and kind of give him a break and sort of help pick up the slack down there a little bit.
It's possible too, if you increase the staff, then it'd be open more and you generate more money, right?
Yes, yeah, or at least, yeah. I mean, eventually, yes, and just have somebody who's helping him more, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
And
Go ahead.
one quick thing, Bill, if there was any way that if it was going to be closed early, there could be some signage that you can see easily from the street, the same way like when the roads are closed for this tree work. It's really frustrating to load up and get there and have it be closed. And a lot of times, I know for me, it's because I just wasn't paying close enough attention. But I think that it would be, you create goodwill with the public if they knew when it was going to be open that week.
Yeah, and I know Joe makes his own little signs and things like that, but I agree it's difficult. It's very hard to communicate with him. He only uses his phone from like 8 to 8:30 in the morning, and so and so trying to get him to give me his schedule, it's a little bit challenging. But I agree with you, trying to either facilitate having something that he can put out onto the gate that gives people more information, and or getting him to give me info so I can at least put it, online and things like that. So, I agree with you. I hear what you're saying. We'll work on something.
Have like a sandwich board out on the street.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna then move on to the next item.
Thank you, Bill.
Thanks, Bill.
Yep.
Will you go have a nice evening now? Please?
Yeah.
Not that we're not fun, but.
Okay. Item 21.
It's me.
Discussion of public agency coordination on bond measures from trustee Ariandar of the school district.
Yeah, so I am aware, I think I talked to you all a while back about coordinating community services in Bolinas and getting different agencies to do that. And they have now applied for what's called I'm blanking. Collaborative Impact Grant from the West Marin Fund to do that work. And I'm aware that all the public agencies are looking at bond measures. And there, we've got a bond measure, possible bond measure at the school. The BPUD probably needs a bond measure if it's going to do a building. The fire district would like to do a bond measure for a new engine. And the Mesa Park needs a bond measure for the pool and for other things. So we've got everybody wanting a bond measure. It doesn't really make sense to go out for 4 bond measures. Like, this is one of the problems of where we are in Bolinas right now, this being spread way too thin and kind of bleeding the same wells over and over again. And I think it would be good to try, and I know nothing about it, just saying. But I like the idea of going out for a collaborative bond measure where all the agencies go out. It's, whether if we can go out under one umbrella, a collaborative bond measure where everybody's projects are on there. And we're looking at a bond measure for Bolinas under the BPUD broadly or under the school broadly, or, the school is consulting with their bond capacities consultants to find out if they can even do that. But I think that it would make a lot more sense to go out as a community, say we have a lot of infrastructure needs, here they are, here's what we're raising, and here's what the projects are. Vote for one bond measure, or vote for them all at one time, so that they're not, do I vote for the pool, or do I vote for the VPUD, or do I vote for the fire engine, like, what do I vote for? But I.
Oh, cool.
But so I would,
Feel the
I guess
fire
what I'm
engine
asking
cool.
of the BPUD is that you also consult with what it would look like to try to do a collaborative bond measure between the public agencies in town.
My concern, I'm all for the idea, because I think
Yeah.
it's a good idea, is that we really have different boundaries. The school district goes all the way to Stinson. The fire district goes about halfway, I think, to Audubon Canyon and up to 13 Curves. And the BPUD doesn't even go to Horseshoe Hill. So if we were to do a bond for all of us, then have you thought about how you do that?
So this is where I'm not, I'm not the specialist. It might be that it would be under the school, because the school is both.
Yeah,
And I know that the fire departments are talking together. I know that you guys are talking with Stinson's water district. There might be an advantage, there might not be, of doing it with Stinson, a bond for both districts. The pool would benefit from that. But again, I think it would take somebody understanding the nature of unincorporated areas. And I know that Peter Lucchetti, has floated this idea of needing a community service district to do this.
yeah.
But Georgia believes that it can be done under the BPUD. I know that the school's bonding capacity is both districts. I think we would probably need to find a consultant to work with us, and that's why, at the very least, perhaps we could all put our bond measures under one ballot measure. So that even if they were 4 different bonds, they all went under one capacity, and maybe the county was holding it for us, or maybe it all went under the school, or all went under the BPUD, so that it could be one ballot measure. And I think the idea is mainly that one ballot measure and one bond is an easier payment for people than 4.
Yeah.
So that's,
I mean, I think at the very least coordinating on this, like even if they're not probably the same measure, and understanding like, oh, you guys are going out for a bond that year, so let us go out the next, like, I mean, I don't know, but you can imagine that they could thwart one another, and at least having some coordination around these discussions, and maybe even just public input in a broader sense, where you at least get to prioritize some of these ideas from a community perspective, right? It's like, the community can say, what we think this is more important than this, even if, and that at least gives the agencies some insight on like, wow, if we go up against this other measure, we're probably not we're gonna lose out.
I think there's a lot of push, at least in the nonprofit sector of West Marin, for collaboration and for trying to be more effective in how we do things, instead of having 6 things do the same thing, having one do it. And I feel like there's a something to be said for saying, what are all the infrastructure needs, and prioritizing or looking at them and having people understand that there are all these needs and we need to do all of this work. And like you said, either having people weigh in or at least understand what the platform is that needs to be addressed.
Rob, I see you have your hand up.
Yeah, hi. Short of just sort of phasing these and, deciding which ones you put on during which ballot periods, I think the real challenge here would be, if you tried to combine everything, is how does the underwriter rate the risk? How do they rate the bond? And you just have to talk to a bond consultant, I guess, to see if the financial particulars, for lack of a better term of art, of the different entities that would all sort of be going for funding at the same time are disparate enough that it becomes a real challenge to rate the bond. So.
Well, I think that's where each entity would be talking to their consultants and. You know, each one has I know that the school has a $22 million bond capacity. And so that's how they've been rated. And each of these public entities would have their own rating, and it's how you would bring them together, or whether you could.
Yeah,
But I think, Georgia, to your point, that just having the entities speak to each other about what they're trying to do, because I could see, you know, putting the pool, the BPUD, like you could do a facility that covered a lot of the needs in one facility. And that could all be, you know, 3 bonds, you know, the capacity of 3 agencies going into one facility. That makes a lot more sense than we put up a pool. Oh, now we need to put up a building. Oh, now we need a daycare center. But now, you know, like, let's try to be strategic about what we're doing and what we can bring together under one roof or 6 roofs or whatever it is.
It's also the thing that is maddening about the county when you go there is you realize that they're not talking to each other. So we have an opportunity to do it right here in town.
Yeah.
And are you proposing that BPUD would be the forum to lead those agencies
No,
to come together?
well, as I said, I brought it to the school, and what Leo said is, you know, let's bring our consultant in and see what our consultant says. So I would say that, you know, to that, you know, Georgia should probably be looking into what is the BPUD's capacity? How does that work with the fact that it doesn't go all the way to Dogtown, but you know, the school does, and, you know, just kind of start doing the research. And once once all the different agencies have started talking about it with themselves, then they can start talking together if there's a there. But I think it starts with you, like, as Jack said, you guys speaking to the consultant.
So we all speak to one consultant and share the cost?
That would be, I
Spirit of collaboration.
I think that would be possible. I mean, I know that Leo has something he's talked to a whole lot.
Okay.
So you could reach out to Leo and see if that's a potential.
Yes.
Leo and I spoke about this yesterday, actually, at the San Francisco thing, and he's reached out to Greg Eason, who's his consultant, who I believe specializes in school general obligation bonds, but see if maybe you can do more broad work. The initial response was not positive about the school partnering with other agencies to put together some kind of collaborative bond, but Leo's still hopeful, and he's gonna wait for the legal department to say, but.
And it might be that the county has somebody who could talk to us about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
all right.
All right.
I think we're supportive of it. All right, thanks. I'm gonna go back to the agenda.
Yeah.
Item 12. Notice of determination of appropriations limit for fiscal year 26-27.
My favorite time of year, appropriations limit. No, just if you guys can direct me to post this notice of determinations. And then just to remind you, I'll come back in June with resolutions. This needs to be posted on June 2nd. And so this is the draft language that you guys are effectively approving me to.
Do you need a
notice.
motion or just telling us that this is what you intend on doing?
Just direct me if you would.
A motion that you be directed to do it. Okay, and we get a motion to direct the general manager to post this determination of appropriations limit.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We're gonna move on to item 13.
Okay. Yep.
Second reading and adoption of ordinance 2026-02, which is an amendment to ordinance 38, rules and regulations regarding the transfer of water meters.
Yeah, this is our second reading. You guys did a thorough reading, the first reading to repeal and replace ordinance 38. This is the water meter transfer ordinance. And I included the last time's memo because that has a lot more details around your the reasoning for doing this repeal and replace. But very straightforwardly, what I'm looking for you guys is you guys already made revisions. Your revisions were very minor. And it was like a shall that Jack asked to, yeah, board may is turned into shall at line 3 there. And just to let folks know, the highlights which I originally brought forward last meeting, those that are essentially the new language, and most part kept ordinance 38 language intact. I just included these new sections. So if you guys could approve this, then or adopt it, that will take effect. It's an ordinance, so it'll take 30 days after you guys adopt these.
Okay, so this is for adoption of ordinance number 2026-2.
Yeah.
Okay, and rather than read through the whole thing, it's already been posted on our website. We went through it the first time too, so I don't think they'll reread the whole thing again. Is there any discussion about this ordinance?
I have a quick one.
Sure.
Page 3 near the bottom,
Okay,
section, how do you say that, 3 or triple I, recorded covenant limiting water use, so this asks for a covenant running with the land that limits water use on the property. Isn't that just an LWUP? I mean, I don't understand the difference between that and an LWUP. Elsewhere in this, it references, LWUP, but here it kind of uses different language. I'm just wondering if that is stronger than an LWUP in some way, or is that basically just an LWUP?
Well, I think it's that you're recording it at the county,
Yeah.
because the LWUP is here.
Okay, so
that's how you read it. I know up is us.
right, it's only only within VPUD, but this
Yeah.
would get recorded with the county.
Right,
Okay,
and
so
therefore
it is
go with
sort of
it.
a stronger, higher level limit.
Yeah, it also runs with the land, which means
Right.
it becomes part of the title to the property,
Right,
which is not what we do.
yeah,
Yeah.
That's why it seems like the same thing, but they're really two different.
right.
Yes,
okay.
and I mean, just to remind you, when I brought this forward at the other one, I said, hey, look at what I would like to do, which is scrap all of this language, right? Because it's really getting into land use issues, which I don't think is appropriate for us, right? So really, this was fixing a couple of things in this ordinance, but not what, we brought forward and discussed at length. As I think what you guys were in, at least in agreement somewhat, that this was a little bit overreach, and this was, could we have a workshop that really looks at all of these meter related resolutions, like the LWUP resolution, this transfer resolution, and overhaul a lot of it. And a lot of it would be getting rid of this restrictive language and really saying, like, we put limits on meters, we care about aggregate use, we allow transfers, and we don't really get into these land use issues and building code issues and stuff like that.
Okay,
But we're not rectifying any of that here.
okay.
All right, so I would hope that we will vote to adopt ordinance 2026-02. You need a motion to do that, I assume.
Yes, please.
Okay. Can I get the motion?
So move.
Thank you. Is there a second? Thank you. Any further discussion on this? All in favor? Aye. Okay, Andrew had his hand up.
Do we have a time frame when we're gonna spend the time to really look at this?
For those, what I was talking about, I would like to do like a summer workshop, I think. But I think it deserves, like, it's probably its own little thing. Like, I was thinking kind of akin to, what is the, when I was on the school board, we would have these like retreats. Yeah, so it would just be like, okay, get lunch and pick a day and workshop them, and basically, because they're hefty.
Yeah.
I think that's a good idea.
If we can get on the books, I will miss August meeting. I'll be gone part of August, so I would push for July if that's possible.
I'm missing June and July. I'll be back for August.
Okay.
Okay, well, that's perfect.
Yeah. We'll have
But are
more.
you talking about a separate dedicated
Yeah,
thing?
yes,
It's not a
yeah.
board meeting.
Yeah.
No,
Okay, I'm gonna move on to
We
item
do it
4.
in September when everybody's back.
Yeah.
Item 14, that's a first reading of ordinance 2026-03, labor, materials, and equipment costs. You want to summarize what that's about, Georgia?
Yeah, basically this is currently we have a kind of haphazard means by which we charge people for work that effectively is them asking us on their behalf to do something. So a good example is somebody's building a new home, they want to move their water meter. So, you know, essentially we are already providing water provision to them. There's cost associated with moving that meter. Maybe they need a new meter, maybe usually they're retapping the main, all of that kind of stuff. So, sometimes we charge for that stuff, sometimes we don't. So it's a little bit not very formalized. And when we do, we basically write up a letter and an invoice, and it doesn't really have the backing of an ordinance. And so this is essentially an attempt to clean up what is current practice. But also, so that's basically what this is. So if you go to the ordinance itself, it says first reading. I guess what I would suggest is, I don't think we need to read this ordinance right here. The first reading is really a little bit of a misnomer. It's basically a presentation of this ordinance to the public and to the board to enable them enough time to digest it so that when we come and do the second reading, either you members of the board or members of the public could come back with comments, right? So we're giving it enough lag time. And this is, again, just like you saw in the previous ordinance, when you guys adopt it in the next meeting, then it still has like a 30-day statutory delay before it actually comes into effect. So what I would suggest here is if you guys have read this thoroughly and have comments now, let's record those comments. And in as much as it's quite dense and you want to provide comments at the second reading, that's also fine. So do any of you guys have comments or revisions right now? It's basically as a first reading, it's really not on for action. There's nothing for you guys to do.
Anybody? No.
One comment I had is to make the fees, especially involving operator time or staff time, make them adjustable based on cost of living or
Yeah, so that's actually one of the things I did. So if you look at some of these ordinances, they'll say like X dollars. So what I did was just reference MOU costs and stuff.
Okay.
So the idea is that you have to do less revisions of this thing.
Okay, great.
Because it just calls to those fee schedules.
What about things that aren't based on employee time, that aren't based on the MOU, such as
Yeah, well, that's a material one. So often what you're doing is just basically material costs consumed or used in connection with this reimbursement work shall be charged at the district's actual cost procurement. So you usually just provide evidence for that.
Okay.
And then it's like, this is, again, I was just adopting what is very customary stuff plus 15%.
Yeah, I was gonna ask you, you have like a 1.25 factor and 1.5 and 2
Yeah.
and then 15%. Are those?
These are basically just standards.
Are those aren't existing factors, they're just
Mm-mm.
standard.
No, so this is heftier than what we currently do, but I would say this is more standard compared to what other utility districts charge.
Okay.
So again, it's not set fees associated with these, like we'll talk about that in a second. But it's kind of written in a way where I'm trying not to have to revise this thing every year or whatever. And it's basically implementing what is, customary costs that, like, again, it's not that we're making money off of that 15%. The intent is that, okay, and I mean, it's true. I see that now when I am, if I think about the last project where I did this, I had all kinds of interactions with the contractor and all of, discussions with our staff. And so it wasn't, what we ended up charging for was, okay, two of our staff members were there for 3 hours, moving the service line and doing all of that, right? But those did not capture the costs associated with the effective project management of that. So that's what these are, these costs are trying to capture.
Okay.
And just to remind the public, like This is, when you don't do this, you're actually in more legal peril than if you do this, because effectively Prop 218 specifies that you can't just bake these kinds of costs into your balance sheet. You need to charge the individual who is receiving that, above and beyond service.
Yeah. All right, so we'll wait for the second reading then on that.
Yeah, and I just encourage folks, and as much as that goes, we have an efficient meeting next time, is just bring, do a more detailed reading of it and come back with whatever changes you're recommending.
So like real quick, just to follow up on my comment about adjusting prices over time, with 10 years from now, I'm talking about Exhibit C here, which is the last page. Hydrojet lateral cleaning would cost $400, but 10 years from now, that should probably be higher than what it is. So how is that adjusted over time, or is it?
So, okay, so the important thing here, sorry, so I was sort of forgetting what I was doing here.
That's okay. I mean, some of them say like minimum 2 hours of, I assume that's like operator time. So maybe that's how it gets adjusted.
Yeah, so, okay, so let me just make sure. So this thing, I'm gonna remind myself about this a little bit.
15, last
The last
page.
one?
Yeah, Exhibit C, so it lists some different fees for different services. I'm just wondering how,
Yeah.
I think that should be adjusted.
Yeah, so just to be clear, so this thing sits in, there's a section here in the ordinance that is schedule 4.1, schedule of service and fees. The board of directors shall adopt and maintain a schedule of service and fees by resolution identified specific reimbursable work services subject to a flat fee and amount of each fee. The schedule may be updated by repeal and replace resolution at any time without amendment of this ordinance. The general manager shall maintain and post the current schedule at the district office and blah, 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 okay? So the whole idea here is, and if you read the memo, it kind of goes into this. It's like, this ordinance is really to enable us to basically charge people in exactly the way I just described. Then there's the secondary schedule of fee. Even if 4.1, you went to that schedule of fee and nothing to report, this thing is still functional in terms of us being able to charge somebody for, moving their meter or whatever, their service line. So the idea though is that that's why I included this. Okay, so once you guys adopt it, it will be in effect and it will just basically lend teeth and structure to what we're already doing, okay, when we charge somebody. But then what I brought forward is basically, hey, a mock rate resolution, right? So this is the resolutions that you're used to, but basically what I did was look at our resolution. I was like, this is very tiny. Like, normally when I started to compare it to other similar resolutions, there's usually like whereas functions, ours don't have that, but basically it ties some authority to all of this stuff, right? And then if you look at it, it would be just as we did before, but I cleaned it up a little bit in terms of annual service charge and meters and blah, 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 all of that stuff. And then it talks about, connection capacity fees and all of that. And then you get to this, okay, that thing that was referenced in 4.1, this is the schedule fee. Currently, as we stand, like right now, we have one thing on our schedule fee. It is this septage dumpage fee, which obviously we don't even do. So we have one thing on there that is basically obsolete. And so clearly we need to clean that up. What I'm suggesting is right now, all we're dealing with this ordinance. When we get through another year of budgetary cycle, and in the coming year, I can think about what do we actually want on this fee schedule? Because to your point, the idea here is that all of these other things, like the ordinance and you don't want to be stuck where you're having to modify the ordinance regularly.
Yeah.
But it's easy for you to swap out this exhibit and change it into, because we have to go through the resolution thing every year, right? If we're going to increase rates, that's part of the Prop 218 that feeds into all of that. So basically, the ordinance sits still. It references the rate resolution. The rate resolution itself references this exhibit that is your fee schedule, and you can put whatever you want on there. But to your point, it's like maybe we don't want that much on there because these things change, and to set a service, just like we can just rely on the ordinance and charge people for that service, or maybe there are things that it's just like a grease trap inspection or whatever is just like, we have to do that all the time, just associate a fee to it. And when that, amount of money becomes like it's not supporting the actual thing, then you can, change out the resolution or the exhibit or whatever.
Okay.
So yeah, sorry, that was forgetting that whole piece of it, but basically I was just bringing that forward for you guys to see the context of where I think we're going here. But ultimately, we're still just looking at a first reading of that service and the procurement, whatever it was called. I don't remember.
So we continue to the next meeting
Yep.
then, okay? Item 15, consider increase of BPUD's general manager's compensation. The board had in the past asked the general manager to do a survey of comparable salaries and compensation for similar districts and similar positions. And the board has come to the conclusion that there should be an increase in the compensation to the general manager. Now, based on the evaluations of all of these other positions and their compensation. So we have a proposed a draft motion, which I'm just going to read for the board consideration. The Board of Directors of the Bolinas Community Public Utility District hereby approves a phased compensation adjustment for the general manager position, an increase of $30,000 effective July 1st, 2026 for fiscal year 26-27, and a further increase of $20,000 effective July 1st, 2027, which will be fiscal 27-28, each contingent on a satisfactory annual performance evaluation by the board in the applicable year. And the end of motion. So I think this reflects what the board feels would be a fair compensation package for the general manager. And although I'm the chair and don't make the motion, I would ask that somebody make the motion and then we can have it seconded and discussion if we want. So does anybody on the board would like to make this motion?
I would be happy to make the motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, do you have any discussion on it? I think we all come to the conclusion that you're doing a great job and we
Yes.
thank you very much.
Yep.
Okay, then all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Congratulations, Georgia.
Thank you, and just a logistical point, so this, because it's phased, and really the way that we normally impart our wages is through our MOU. The first phase this next coming year will just be adopted into the MOU. And then there'll be this addendum that will be attached to the MOU.
And from following year.
Yeah, and that is for the public to see there.
Okay. We'll move on to item 17. There are 3 job postings, and we're supposed to direct the staff to advertise for number 1, the chief plant operator, number 2, operations and project field manager, and number 3, a maintenance worker, at resource recovery site. So I believe the chief plant operator was Stu, is that right?
Well,
Had been?
the chief operator, so just to kind of remind you guys what was happening
Yeah.
there is Andrew's, well, originally Stu, was the chief operator. He obviously left. And then we effectively did not go out for a hire. We appointed Andrew Spalding as the interim chief operator. He's still in that position. In recognition, I mean, this was something that very, also talking to astute board members who had served on the board for a long time and coming to my own conclusions. I kind of quickly realized that there's way too much on the chief operator's plate. And so what this was, or what I would like to do, and what is effectively was baked into the budget for next year, was to essentially divide that chief operator into 2 positions. A chief plant operator is now kind of the position that I would say is more akin to the chief operator, right? Where you're really fulfilling that regulatory requirement around having the appropriate certifications to run both of our sewer and water plants in compliance. And then you have what was I calling it?
Operations and project field manager.
Yeah, an operations and project field manager. And that person is really kind of leading the crew on the day-to-day in the field, more the proactive management of the facility, and also importantly, managing capital improvement projects. So interfacing with engineers and contractors, and really helping me manage projects. And so this is obviously a big change, which is why I not only included, sort of these draft job descriptions for all of, these positions. But also I put in this field operation leadership division of responsibilities, which was, essentially what I was in parallel, crafting in parallel to the job descriptions, because I wanted to make sure that ultimately the job duties were reflecting this division of labor that I see in this kind of like dual-headed kind of leadership. And so that's basically, I'd say, the most important document that I wanted the board and the public to see was this field operation leadership division of responsibilities, with an understanding that all of this is in draft form and we're like currently cleaning up these job descriptions and even potentially modifying, I'm getting input from the current chief operator around this and other staff to think about, okay, does this really make sense? In the way that I would sort of like in broad terms think of this division, the chief plant operator is much more of the regulatory kind of role. So that's just not only understanding those regulations, but also kind of developing the framework for, emergency response, like all of those kinds of things that can be much more statutory in nature and you need to understand in order to inform us while we in the office, prepare these regulatory documents where you can imagine, and they're also familiar with best practices around, say, ensuring that you proactively don't end up with blockages in your collection system, right? And the idea is, okay, they're thinking deeply about what does all of this look like, and then the field manager is really implementing that. Okay, that means that we should be flushing our sewer mains, once a month. And how am I going to schedule that within the broader context of all of this other stuff that I need to do? And so the idea is that field manager is really scheduling the folks. So it's really important to understand that those two entities really, we're so tiny, right? They're not going to be just siloed. They are really working together, and it is much sometimes directing one another.
I was going to ask you that. Is there a hierarchy, or are they
I don't think so. I think it's really a yeah. And they're informing one another. So it's really important that those two have, a good working relationship. But I think that if it, works, it could work well. Obviously, just see how it goes.
All right.
And then just one logistical point. I mean, the reason I brought shift operator forward and stuff like that is obviously we're tiny. These kinds of hiring are very time consuming. So what I envision is that we basically are going out for, you could be, we have an opening or openings. We don't really know yet in terms of, if people get promoted into a position, then, somebody that would leave a shift operator position open that we're actually filling, right? So somebody, when they apply to these positions, you essentially open with, are you interested in any of the following, and somebody checks I'm only interested in the chief operator position.
Can you actually promote one of our current staff people into these, or do you have to post the job and interview? And
I think it's appropriate to post the job and go through interviews.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Do the current staff have the certifications to fill both of these positions?
Well, the field one is obviously much more broad in nature. The current interim chief operator has the certifications to act as the plant the chief plant operator.
And do you need a motion to direct you to do this?
Yeah, and the one thing I also said was, you know, in as much as we need guidance from the board, you would just direct us to work directly with the personnel committee.
Oh, okay. So the motion would be to post these 3 positions and to then work with the personnel committee in filling them.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm sorry, just one point because I forgot to say this. The other opening is a part-time position that Val mentioned down at Resource Recovery.
Resource recovery, right. Okay, can I get a motion then to direct staff to advertise these positions or work with the personnel committee in filling them?
I so move.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second,
All
I
in favor?
have a quick question.
Yeah, sure.
Just about these job postings. I didn't see a salary range listed. Is that something you plan to include in the posting, or is it sort of TBD based on?
No, sorry, these are not job postings, these are
The job
description.
Yeah, sorry, job description.
So, I mean, it's something that Belle and I were really struggling with is just like recognizing that there's all these like disparate pieces of these types of things, and it really behooves us to like bring it because we're like, where's that information? You know, so I do think part of our effort here was to clean up all of this stuff, really put it in one thing where it's like a comprehensive, like you're saying, just all of that stuff in one place, and then you can extract things like, okay, this is what we need for our job advertisement associated with this position. This is what we need for job duties. Because like you sometimes need to provide job or often have to provide job duties to our insurer or whatever, so that they can understand what categorization they are for insurance purposes, you know, like workers' comp and blah, blah, blah.
Okay.
So it's just like, yeah, I agree. Not all of the information you want here is here. And obviously the advertising would have to include that kind of information.
And then one more is, so total field staff would be the chief plant operator, the operations and project field manager, and then 3 shift operators?
No.
2.
Yeah, I wish. No.
Okay.
Two.
So 2, okay.
So we're not increasing from 4.
Okay. So it'll still be 4 field staff.
Mhm.
Okay. Thank you.
Did we vote just on that or not?
You did
We
not,
didn't
you
vote
guys
yet.
seconded.
Devin second.
Got it. Short-term memory. All in favor? Aye. All right, well, what do you know? That was easy, huh? Now we're all the way down to item 17, which is the manager's update.
Okay, I don't think I'm gonna be able to hit the 9 PM mark, but I will try.
Do you want almonds?
Popcorn is what I want.
I'm so sorry. If you'd called me.
Popcorn would be nice, right?
Popcorn would be
I
nice.
think we need to install a poplar machine. Yeah, yeah,
But if the hardware store has one, why not us?
that's right.
They can't cost that.
Can you guys see that?
Yeah.
We can.
Yes, we can.
All right.
We're not gonna get rid of that little square on the right if we can.
Can we get rid of it?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna cover something.
This looks not right.
Oh,
Sorry,
no.
guys.
What happened? Oh gosh.
What happened if you exit? You said.
Oh, you want to exit it?
You can go.
You want to get rid of it?
Yeah.
There you go.
Right?
Hopefully we didn't just kick everybody off the call except for Rob.
Yeah.
Sorry, there's a. I see everybody there, right?
We can't see them. on the screen, but we believe you.
Rob,
Good.
You can see them. That's fine.
I think if you go to the tab at the top, you see
Yes.
meeting versus just screen.
yeah, okay, so looking back at April water production, we were like at 128 gallons per day. This is down from March slightly, from 134. Consumption is at 127. This is equal to March's consumption. April is slightly less. 2% decrease for connection compared to last April. This is the total usage trends. And then looking at, post meter, we're looking at this looks like February, March, April, mid Mesa. The tranche is slightly higher than it was last year. But our overall, if you compare here to here, is slightly less than it was last year. Our rain totals through April is 27.73. That's slightly lower than the historic average of 31 inches by the end of April. The cumulative rainfall, if we look at the last 3 years, we're sitting slightly above what we were last year, so we're at 27.93. And that, just to remind you guys what things looked like in April at the Hondo. The upper.
Create an Arroyo Hondo white noise.
I was thinking the same thing.
And after that. Up for your nap.
So it looks like it's slightly less flow, but we are also drawing at a higher level than we were in the previous one. So I like them to take these videos while we're actually producing so that we can see what it looks like when we're drawing from the field. Operations, oh, sorry, the reservoirs. This is what the reservoirs look like. So you can see a little bit of the Azola creeping back.
Yeah.
And then moving on to our leaks, we had most of our activity was on Cedar in where the dirt dumps are. I don't know if you guys know where these are, but it's basically a big couple of mounds that kids have built to ride their dirt bikes. Unfortunately, it's also where we have leaks, so we had to contend with these big mounds of dirt. So I'm just gonna show you guys what that looked like because it was pretty brutal.
Cedar and what? What, the cross street?
Alder
Oh, okay.
by Dieter's house.
Oh, wow.
Ouch. Yeah.
So that meant ultimately we did some repairs within the existing mounds and then they returned. And so we just got to the point where like we need to remove these mounds. So that's what we did. Dawn came in and took away the mounds and then we did a more extensive repair. There's still some leaks there, but yeah, that's what was happening there. We have some few small leaks on Hawthorne, on Cedar and Grove, and fortunately in the unpaved region of Grove. We had a very small leak at the, you see that? So those are ones that we can repair with some material that you just like wrap around the pipe and it works well. Compared to some of the monstrous ones I've showed you guys previously. I think I told you guys that our dump truck was out of commission, we had that repaired. Just pointing out some folks in town had noticed and brought to our attention that there was, I mean, some of them are even higher than this. I have, since I've been here, this has not happened, but in talking to the guys, it's pretty common occurrence that one of the spray heads, you know, breaks off and then you just basically get this little geyser. But just want to encourage and thank people for bringing to our attention anything they see in the field that they think is suspicious. The Wells project is kind of moving forward in earnest. And so this is some engineering for what's going on in the treatment facility and some pads that we've poured to house some of the materials that lead into the raw water tank. Just to remind you guys, this is where the treatment facility is, this Connex box. And then we have a raw water tank and a treated water tank. And ultimately, like we were discussing in the context of the pool today, there'll be a water line that, you know, with a pump associated with this tank, and it will then lead to push water into the main on Mesa Road. The affordable housing project, Habitats project, I'm sure you guys have seen, it's pretty extensive down there. And oops, this arrow moved. It's supposed to be pointing to this area right here. This is where our treatment facility will be. So it'll be a small shed. It's a much smaller footprint than the one up in the Mesa. And it's just a storage tank and a small shed, and there's the well right here. Moving on to the Ocean Protection Council grant, we continue to work with West Yost on this. I think I told you that this had been completed and that I would show you this. And this is not the entirety of it, but this is just basically showing some of the GIS that came out of that project thus far. The other thing, just getting a brief update on our automated meter pilot. So these are all of our meters, essentially kind of with a heat map of where we think they might work well and where they might not work as well, and that we may need to augment the network within certain regions. We have a reminder, just 60 meters that we've kind of dispersed throughout the district that will kind of lay on top of this map, and we've sort of strategically picked them on for various criteria, and it's been very laborious to just essentially bring a meter in and then find out it's too old to outfit and blah blah blah. It's just like, and so this is Annie's response to all of the work that she's been doing on this.
What is that? I can't tell. What
She's got like, this woman has 2 meters in her eye.
Oh, okay.
Same
Yeah,
meters.
I think that's a really great image, and I think we should like put it up on the wall,
Right.
just for.
Yes.
Is it Annie?
It's not really Annie, but I think it speaks to Annie.
So what's the timeline of this?
The timeline, we're still within our timeline. We just received, or we're about to receive a couple of meters to swap out, and
Okay.
we'll be doing all of those meter swaps so that by July 1 is when we're supposed to be ready to go. I think I talked to you guys about this and you'd asked me to go back, and they were very flexible. They basically said you can run your pilot over 4 months instead of 3 months, so
Okay,
we'll
great.
be able to capture 3 months worth of data.
Great.
I attended the Bolinas Civic Group meeting, and that was in collaboration basically with the county that was giving, they were conducting what they were calling a workshop for their LAMP, which is the Local Agency Management Plan. This is really around their regulations of sewer, not sewer, on-site wastewater treatment systems for septic systems. So basically that was really nice to attend that meeting, and also I was there with Belle, and I joked right at the beginning because I was like, oh, I'm not used to presenting in front of people. So there's a lot of people at that meeting. I mean, we do have people here today, but they have lots of people. They also have soup. I think that helps. But this is just basically a slide. It was very cursory. I only talked for like a minute.
You did great.
No, thank you. But basically, just making the point that there's a kind of a regulatory patchwork of who oversees wastewater. And I think it's important for the community to understand it when they see these kind of parallel efforts. There's the potential for them to get confused about what is the county doing versus BPUD and all of that, because there's a lot of overlap there. So that was kind of my impetus for presenting at the meeting alongside the county. Some governance updates. I just wanted to point out, in case you guys didn't see it, we put all of our Prop 218 noticing on materials on the website, and also just wanted to point out, in case board or members of the public did not see, we have a tool on there that helps you gauge what your new proposed bill will be versus your old one. You can just put in your old bill amount or your old usage and predict what your next one will be.
Cool.
Yeah. And then just one point, this is more just a opportunity to talk to the board about it because we haven't launched this to the public, but as you guys know, we implemented a new kind of means to share materials for the meeting. And you guys, we don't need to talk about that here, but just encourage you to email me and let me know what you think, was good about it or what you want improved. But essentially I'm trying to get away from, for a meeting of 24 items, to have 75 items to sift through is annoying. So just to consolidate those materials into single items and also obviously have them linked in the agenda, for ease of, sifting through the materials.
Question?
Yeah.
Oh, did we just slip by the budget, the thing that went out in the mail? Because I had some questions. Are we gonna talk about it?
Well, this is, you can ask Jack, but usually I just give the managers update as like, here's an update on things. So we talked extensively about that at the previous meeting. This was kind of my, just letting folks know that all of those materials are there. I mean, if you have some questions, I'm.
Jack, what do you think? Is there gonna be an appropriate time to talk more about, because we've now gotten it and it.
Oh, sorry, and to be clear, we'll obviously have a hearing next month where you can come forward and.
Okay.
or-
Because this is I was at the last meeting when you talked a lot about it, and then I got this, and there's a big jump for me in what you talked about, and it actually seeing it and seeing.
Well, we shared all of those materials at the previous meeting. So.
Yeah,
You're looking for a forum for me to have
Beautiful.
questions about.
Yeah, I know they're just, it was a startle, that's all I'm saying.
Okay, I believe that's the next meeting when.
Okay.
Yeah, the next meeting is the opportunity we'll have a public hearing and
For
you
the
can
public.
protest. Obviously, if you have questions, I'd say that's not probably the appropriate time to ask them. There's potential that a lot of those questions were addressed in many of the meetings that led up to that. That's where we dealt with all of the budget and the reasoning behind, all of that. So that's,
We can answer whatever questions you have about how we got to the numbers we have.
Here's my question, talk about whether I can ask it or not, whether you want to answer it. And that is this increase in septic drainage. It's not like we have much going on with our septic at this point, and not much at all with drainage. So is this upgrade going to mean that there'll be more going on?
So why don't we save that for the next meeting then?
Will do.
Yeah, I would encourage you to go back and look at those meetings because I talked extensively about that, and we actually have had a lot of work that we've done with the fire district around more road and drainage work that we have done. So we have increased the amount of work that we are doing with that. Obviously, there's more to be done, but and we're, about to embark on a project, for instance, at the end of Cedar, which we never would have done previously. It was kind of just left on people to essentially do this work. And we're taking a much more proactive role in improving drainage. That was basically, my sort of, and I have presented on this and just encourage you to go back look at those meetings. And of course, you can always come in and talk to me as well. But basically what I understood is that there was a mandate for the BPUD to really take on this role to ensure that septic systems were functioning as well as they could by improving drainage. And there were high levels of service fees effectively associated with that, collected from the impacted folks on the grid in Mesa to support that work. That work was not being done. And so those fees effectively, built up a reserve that ultimately, wasn't being used. And so we diminished the work. What I did within the last year was basically look back at that and say, we should be doing this work. It's not really appropriate. Especially as the population ages, folks can't do that work on their own. And it really was a requirement of the BPUD to take on that role and really ensure that properties were draining as well as they could. And so we are doing more of that work. Some of that, again, was basically an appreciation that some of this has to do with road maintenance, right? So basically the water customers and the septic drainage customers are, I don't know to what extent you saw that, but we did a bunch of work with the fire in collaboration with the fire district and cleared ditches and stuff like that in the winter.
Okay, I'm just giving you a heads up.
Mhm.
I was gonna ask some questions that I know have come up, because when you see it in the color and the actual numbers,
Mhm.
it's a lot different, and I'm a person who goes to meetings. And I may does sometimes in them when they get really a lot of numbers, but, I should have not been so surprised. What surprised me is that there's been, I guess I'm going back to the day when we had a drainage committee that actually had a plan. We have a drainage plan in the district.
Mhm.
And in our neighborhood, there's been nothing, that plan, anything that happens or people go out there with a shovel when they get annoyed. Billy used to come with the hose.
Jenny, I have to tell you, it's really something to raise at the next meeting.
That's what I wanted to know, but I just wanted you to know
Okay,
that
okay.
there are questions.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
Okay, so then moving ahead, one other thing I just wanted to point out in terms of this new formatting, in terms of the materials. One thing that is just kind of lame, but is actually very annoying that we deal with, is when things get added to the agenda, depending on where they get added, they basically cause this whole domino effect. And if we've already numbered things,
Yeah.
then essentially it's really annoying. So one thing I was thinking about doing that would rectify that is if we actually, where we have these same items here, it would be public hearings, one, and then you just agendize the individual items under that. So like A, B, C, so you'd have 1A. So if something gets added, it gets added as 1B, and it doesn't then cascade through the whole thing. So that means that I think ultimately if we moved over to this, we can basically try it out and see if you guys hate it. But effectively, I think it's nice because then the numbers don't change. Like special reports are always 2. So you basically 2A is always going to be a special report. But it does mean that things get, instead of a nice clean number, they're going to be like 2A, 2B, 2C. So just wanted to let you know. I think it's annoying. I mean, it seems really trivial, but it actually is a real irritation.
I thought that the links worked way better than before in this particular
I agree.
iteration, so thank you for that. Instead of having to go back and forth, it just was great.
My only question, is there an option, you have to go to each individual link to download them? There's no
Yeah, and
option
that's
to do. Like,
the whole folder, yes. And so if you go back, when I introduced this to you guys, or Belle actually sent this email, she put the folder link too. So you guys have access, it's just like the board drive was.
Okay.
So you can go to that high level, and if that's your like workflow, I mean, that was kind of the point of it, was just like understanding that you guys have different workflows. Some people like to download all of the contents from the folder. You can still do that with this. That's what's linked. And then some people just would rather interface with the individual items in the agenda. Okay, we finally got to the 100th customer. It was the Rod and Boat Club, but they still hadn't come to pick up their swag. And this is just encouraging people to go paperless to make Annie happy. Here she is stuffing envelopes. And I'm just gonna read this. I wish I was working on the cross connection control program right now instead of stuffing envelopes. So like the more she's doing this, the less she gets to do the really exciting things. And so if at all possible, please go paperless.
and remind me, when you go to pay the link, it's there's no additional charge if you're using your credit card or something.
There is a surcharge. One thing that
It's
Annie,
like I got a bill for $2 and I thought, am I gonna have a surcharge?
no, but what
$2?
Annie encourages folks to do is just like front load your account. So essentially you just put whatever you're comfortable putting on there, and then you don't have to worry about your bill when you get charged it again or whatever.
Right.
Yeah, there's not an auto pay option, is there?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, I didn't see one, but
Yeah.
I thought I'd ask. Okay, but front loading would be the.
That way you avoid charge each time you use it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, continue.
Put down.
And then
25
finally, just
for
wanting to
years.
give an update on the tree project that I'm sure you guys have seen going on there. This is up top. You remember? Oh, sorry, I wanted to point this out. So remember, there's a bunch of work up here, and then there's a bunch of work on Olima Bolinas. Most of this work up here has pretty much been done. A lot of this was trimming as well as full tree removals. And also some, smaller brush removal and stuff like that. reminding folks that these triangles here are the PG&E trees, and unfortunately where the lines are meant that we couldn't do a lot of tree removal in this area where you're within those like limits of PG&E wires. And then the other part of the work that is really ongoing right now is down on Molino Venus. So this is basically up there. And then this is down below. And you know, at the, you know, if you're coming from resource recovery there. And this is that kind of middle one zone where there's less activity because of the PG&E lines, but there are a few trees that came out of there too.
Can you remind me if PG&E is planning to do anything about that?
Yeah, so just to remind you guys, we tried to get them to come on to our project. They look and like, you know, rely on our effective you know, permit exemption process. They were very hopeful that they could do that. They talked to their lawyers and their lawyers put the kibosh on it. So then we have walked extensively with them and seen what their markings mean. So they have trees that are slated to come down this year, next year, and the year after. They go through a 2-year coastal permitting process to basically get permission from the Coastal Commission to remove any of these trees. So it's absolutely insane. But that's what they're doing. So, you know, it's really frustrating. I mean, one thing that we will do after our project, what I was thinking is after our this project is done, we will take pictures, send them to PG&E and let them know, hey, you know, this means that there's a lot less wind barrier here and you guys should get on taking down the trees that you have slated to come down. So I think it's important to communicate with them around like all of the activity that's happened here. And I know that's a point that John Cozy has made several times and hopes that we relay to PG&E. I mean, we don't obviously can't really apparently get them to do it, but in as much as we can, you know, encourage them to. This is just basically our, there's a bobcat. So see that at a cow. This is This is here. It's what's not a snake. I hope it's not a snake.
Close your eyes, I'll tell you. It is.
Oh,
Close your eyes, I'll tell you.
my eyes.
And a snake.
I don't know if you can see that.
So let this search. What is it? I can't see.
I think it's a gopher snake.
It's beautiful.
It is a gopher snake that's caught up in this mesh.
Oh,
Thing. I don't have the after, but Sean freed it from
That's
this.
good.
Yes, so it's happy ending. Unless you're first in.
Yeah.
So that's that.
It's some good file for the district.
Yes.
Timeline on the tree removal, what's
Another week or something like that.
are there still more trees to come down, or is it more just?
I need to connect back with MWPA. I mean, oh, sorry, I probably should have said this, but obviously there's our pursuit around the with working with Volmar. Remember you guys you directed me to or approved me to work with Volmar and to pursue the same exemption, but for trees that line the path. So that's ongoing, that's been submitted. I, you know, routinely every like week we'll get some comment back from some entity that's reviewing that application. I then consult with Volmar. It's pretty like very limited compared to like a coastal development permit at this point. But that's, you know, hopefully, I mean, obviously I think that we made the right decision in pursuing this because it's been so much more, it is just the timeline of getting trees removed just feels like it's, you know, that the governor's executive order has made a big difference. So I'm really hopeful that we can do a bunch of tree removals that are kind of lining the path. That will be another 40 trees. Is basically what we've submitted for. But the idea is that Stu Weiss would come in and essentially this is exactly what he did for MWPA's project, is just look at the like impact of any individual tree removal on the monarch habitat. Basically signs off on this isn't going to impact the habitat. And that's, obviously was permissible for MWPA's, and so I'm hoping that will also work in this case.
Thanks.
So then we're at item 18.
Okay.
Yeah.
Review of historical water rates for the Bolinas laundromat, which I was actually just looking at.
You're still screen sharing me, are you?
I
Your
just-
full face on the screen. Maybe just because you're talking. Yeah, no, you're fine.
There you are.
I see you guys, so.
Yeah, we see
We
you.
see
You don't want us to look at anything on the screen other than you.
Okay.
Well, I don't even particularly want you guys to look at me.
You're on there.
You could
Starring, okay.
hide your video.
Yeah, you could turn on.
Item
the video.
18, review of historical water rates for the Bolinas laundromat, and you presented us with quite a bit of documentation, which does support the memory that I had, which is that this was a service to the community, and there were several factual findings, some of which were maybe marginally supported by the facts, and others were definitely supported that made it reasonable to limit the amount that they were going to pay and give them more water than other people would get.
Yeah.
Notice that there was a limit on the transfer of that meter so that they could never transfer it with those limitations. In other words, as long as it's being used as the laundromat, they get the breaks basically on the tiered price and the amount they have. But if they ever want to take that water meter and transfer it to somebody else, those considerations are gone. So I think that is one of the considerations we had, which is why do they have a break? And the conclusion by the board in 1992, I guess, was that this was something that was a service to the community.
Yeah, it's interesting to follow this history. I didn't know anything about it. You see actually that there was originally the opposite of that, where it was charging them the most.
Yeah.
So it's just obviously, some of this is somewhat arbitrary until somebody else thinks about it more deeply or from a different lens.
Yeah.
And what did I want to point out here? I mean, one thing I think was problematic around all of this is that it doesn't surface in our rate resolutions. So I would suggest that it is probably legally supposed to be in the rate resolution itself and should be extracted as a special category.
Good point.
So part of that is just sort of institutional knowledge, right? Because I didn't know, because it was just, some, not random, but like a little bit archived decision that was made in 1992. And I didn't even know that. I mean, I had an understanding that they were charged less, but it didn't surface at a sort of rate level and budgetary level where I thought about, don't forget about the laundromat when you update our rates, right? And so it basically slipped through the cracks when we did our meter increases last year, and then again this year when we did all of that. So right now, I think it's appropriate to keep them at these 1992 rates, but I don't think that going forward, shouldn't be revisited. So what I would suggest is that when we do, assuming that the budget is adopted in July and all of this comes forward and we, you set a new, we draft a new rate resolution based on that adoption, then one of the things that would be more transparent there would be the 1992 rates and showing this special three category tiers for the laundromat.
Yeah.
And just specifying exactly what that is. And then, when we go through next year's, I think it would be probably more appropriate to revisit this whole thing and think about whether they should just be on the existing tiers, and still have potentially a cap, but they should be on the tiers as they are today, with essentially a cap that would keep you probably in the 1 and 2, capped at that level. So anyway, there's nothing to do here except to present a big history. The other thing that was useful for me was to go through, this is something that Kevin's asked about, but basically our rates through time. So there's 2 documents here. One is basically what happened to the laundromat through time, but that doesn't really make all that much sense unless you think about the context of the broader history of what's going on with the rates. So they're kind of intended as basically like research documents where people can reference them.
Yeah,
And essentially I'd say no need for you guys to even read them in depth until you're ready to do those revisions potentially next year, but obviously welcome to. Yeah, sorry.
all right.
That's basically it.
Thanks for all the details. That's
Yeah.
very
That
thorough.
was really interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
All right, item 19, sewer lateral specifications.
Yeah, nothing here, just basically letting you guys know that this is something that we've worked on. This was as usual or as is like sort of par for the course. We basically dive into something when something hits the fan, which was basically the Buenos Community Center's lateral
Yeah,
collapsing and realizing we didn't have permits. We have references to permits in our ordinances, but no actual permits for how those repairs are, allowed and basically specified. So that's what we did. We cleaned up a bunch of these documents associated with all of this stuff. And we've been coordinating and being very supportive in as however we can, obviously with this community center.
all right.
We
Now,
already did 20.
yeah, but there's not gonna be any discussion on 22 or 23. We already talked about 24. Nothing on 25. Finance committee, so see item 30. So let's skip down to item actually 29. Finance committee meeting minutes of March 27th. And do we get a motion to approve those unless somebody has some comments about them?
I'll make that motion.
All right, moved and seconded for the finance committee meeting on March 27th. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, item 30, special meeting of April the 13th. And now we're going down from the finance committee, item 26. So is there anything more to do than just vote on these minutes?
Nope.
Okay, can I get a motion to approve the special meeting of April the 13th?
So move.
Yeah, and Jenny, I would encourage you to look at this specific meeting. That is where we talked about all of that and those figures came forward and all of that.
There you go.
And thank you. I will, here's one thing, you guys get much more fleshed out information than when I sit here and try and grok it and hold it in my head. So that's, I'm just giving you a heads up because as a person who's been paying attention, I have fewer questions than if I just got this in the mail, which some of the members of my household did and said, what? And
Okay,
so.
got it. All right, so let's have a vote on the meeting of April the 13th, the special meeting. These are the minutes, and is there a motion to approve those?
I moved to make the motion.
Move.
We're getting punchy.
Yeah,
I'll take that as a motion to approve the minutes of the special
it's a
meeting.
verb, motion's a noun, if you just think of
We're
that.
moving,
Yeah.
too many motions. Okay, there is a motion made to approve the minutes of the April 13th. Is there a second?
Yes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Now we go to the regular meeting of the the 15th, which is item 31. And I don't have them in there. Do we have them?
I think
Yeah.
we're off. I think you were off.
Okay,
That's fine. I think we've done them all.
all right.
I
Anybody
think
want?
there's one more to do. The April 15th.
Yeah,
Oh,
you
sorry.
have a motion.
I found one typo on page 2.
Okay.
It says that I made the motion or moved the motion and also seconded my motion. I think, and I went back to look for the recording. It was I made the motion and Kirsten seconded. It says K McElroy.
I remember 7.
Right on and on.
Thank you.
Kevin, I tell you. Take a look, huh?
The record's got to be right.
That's right, okay. With that change, is there a motion to approve the minutes of April 15th?
Yeah, I'll make them.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, then we have the warrants, item 32. Anybody have any questions about any of these warrants?
Nope.
No, can I get a motion to approve?
Yeah, what's that?
Warrants of April the 1st through 30th?
What's that person?
No, I mean, I looked through it to see, because, you know, there's some big numbers in there, but they
Yeah.
made sense as to.
Sadly.
Yeah, so,
Okay, well, then you want to make a motion?
sure, I'll make a motion for
Approve
the
the
warrants.
warrants, okay, is there a second?
Second.
There you go, all in favor?
Hi.
Aye. Incoming correspondence, I don't know that there is any. Materials to be signed by the board, anything?
I think we did those, yeah.
Yeah, we'll come back with the resolutions. We'll ask you to come in.
Okay,
Good work, guys.
Okay.
Now you can do the raising of the rates again.
Yeah.
future agenda items, anything other than what we've already talked about?
I don't remember.
I have a couple things that I'd like to hear about, possibly Canyon Road, if that's
I
acceptable.
wanted to hear about
And
that.
sort of like, Are we just waiting on the study, you know, with Stinson and? I don't know, it's been a while since we heard anything about that, so.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like it to be in the public domain that we. forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And then I had another idea as we look at the screen, wondering if we could get a permanent screen on the wall for these meetings with some sort of more permanent infrastructure, just so you're not moving things around so much. It might be nice to have a larger screen.
We're leaving this building, Kevin.
Okay, all right. Just an
No,
idea.
I'm
In the
just-
next 5-10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No, I agree. It would be nice to have a screen there and we can always repurpose those investments in our new space.
A bed sheet with my.
I have a projector.
Okay. Next meeting date,
June 17th, I believe.
June 17th.
And I will not be here.
Meeting adjourned.
You.
All right,
It's
we got through the agenda, not bad.
Good job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,